Hi everyone. I'm your host, Accidental Investor Prince. So I welcome you all to the Long Thought video series, episode one. So we are fortunate enough to start with a very great and interesting team of three people, namely Navid, Sanjay, and Parth, and they are a part of Bastion Research, a SEBI registered research analyst firm. So basically, it's a boutique equity research entity focusing on the Indian market. They provide comprehensive and independent research services to empower fund managers, institutions, family offices to make informed investment decisions. And in their association, they are like catering to the above mentioned categories across India, and their clientele includes family offices, investment advisors, and capital market conglomerates. They firmly believe in creating value for their clients across the entire research process through their strong domain expertise and service driven culture that enable them to be an extended research arm for their clients. And as on today, their buy side clients currently manage a combined AUM of 1,000 crore. So, a very warm welcome to the Bastion team. Navid, over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Prince Bhai. Thank you for having us. Thank you for giving us the opportunity. We are grateful to be here. So I am Navid Virani. I am the co-founder of Bastion Research. I have along with me Parth and Sanjay, who are again co-founders of this company. So all three of us, started Bastion Research in the initial phase of 2022, and since then, I think Prince Bhai gave a very good introduction of portraying what we do. So I'll just sum it up in a couple of lines that we aim to work as an extended research arm to our clients, and our clients include family offices, institutions, as well as investment advisors. And I think with that introduction out of the way, let's move to the standard disclosure slide. So, Bastion Research is a SEBI registered research analyst, and this presentation is purely conducted for educational purposes and shall not be any examples. So, we are going to share a lot of examples during the presentation. So, we would request not to take any of those examples as investment advice, and do your own due diligence of the data, etc., being shared in this presentation before taking any decision. And again, any company discussed is not a buy, sell, or hold recommendation from our side. This is purely from informational purposes only. So I think with the introduction and disclosures out of the way, let's start with the presentation. Yeah. So basically, this particular quote from late Charlie Munger forms the basis of what we do at Bastion Research. It forms the basis of the investment process which we have developed for ourselves. So we strongly believe that sound investing is the one where you are cognizant of all the risks which businesses in your portfolio face, and you have minimized the risk to the best extent possible. Minimize the risk to the best extent possible, and I think upside over a long period of time has a nature of taking care of itself unless we have managed to stay alive in the game. So that is where this quote gives us a very good background, where Charlie Munger says that all I want to know where I'm going to die so that I'll never go there. We also operate with the same thought process. We try to find where the landmines are and try to avoid those landmines, and upside over a long period of time, as I said, has a quality of taking care of itself. This is another quote which serves to be a very helpful guiding light to us, and I think for all of us doing equity research and investing full time or part time. So here, this is a quote from Malcolm X, which says that if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for everything. So here, how we take it in our investing thought process is that in today's day and age, the managements have become extremely smart, and they know how to spin the right story, what analysts want to listen to, what investors like to listen to. So with this improved smartness of management, it's really difficult to bifurcate which management is giving you the right information versus some other management giving you a empty story. So we believe that in today's time, it's more important than ever to have a strong, research process which is independent of your own. It's very really important to develop an independent thinking so that you know that what you stand for and you are able to basically separate the wheat from the chaff. So that is why we believe this sport also, holds a lot of importance in the investing which we do, where we have developed a process for ourselves which gives us a clear-cut idea what we stand for, and then for we and therefore we believe that we have been able to, or we will continue to able to say no to a lot of story-based empty opportunities, if that is the right word. So I think, yeah, that is how it goes. So, as mentioned in the introduction, all of us have worked at as a research analyst at various, with various organizations, with various investors, and we have been fortunate in doing that. So, after spending a lot of time in the industry and after doing a heavy amount of discussion amongst ourselves, heavy amount of thinking, we have come across these 5 sources of known risk. So, whatever risk any businesses face uh, can be bifurcated in these 5 sources, which I'm going to mention right now. So, the biggest risk which you can face is by investing in a weak business. Second source of risk is if you partner with a management who is not willing to share profits with the minority shareholder. Third is uh, we basically form a lot of decisions based on the numbers which are presented to us by the company. Now, if the numbers are falsely presented and if numbers are unreliable in nature, we will, form our decision based on something which is absolutely not true. So that's the third source of risk, that okay, you have formed a decision based on something which itself is not reliable. Fourth, and I think a lot of investors have experienced this very recently, is high valuations. So anything cannot be bought at any price. Uh, that is the fourth source of risk, that you have to be cognizant of valuation no matter how gung-ho you are about particular business. And fifth and the last source of risk which we believe is is getting into a business which is a part of a stagnated or a dying industry. Now, in our sense, all the known sources of risk can be bifurcated in these 5 categories. And if an investor takes care of risk coming from these 5 categories, he or she is able to, navigate through investing in a very smooth and a less risky manner. So we also in our research process have tried to develop steps or try to develop checkpoints which helps us mitigate risk coming from these 5 sources, which we'll discuss going forward. So now after discussing the sources of risk, uh, so to mitigate each and every source of risk which I discussed in the last slide, we have developed a thinking framework to minimize risk called SMART. Now, SMART framework stands for strong business, sound management, reliable accounting, reasonable valuation, and industry tailwinds. So we want to be a part of a strong business which is run by a reliable management, a management which is willing to share profits with minority shareholders, who is reporting his or her numbers in a reliable way, which can help us form an opinion or form a view about that particular company, available at reasonable valuations and enjoying industry tailwinds. Now, one really important thing which I would like to highlight right now is that, see, research is a process of finding out where the risk lies and understanding by your judgment, understanding the probability of the same playing out, right? So if even if you have a sound research process, that does not guarantee zero risk, right? So there are going to be risks. You cannot find a perfect business. There is no perfect business which exists. There is always going to be plus and minuses in any business which you invest. But it's your duty as a research analyst, it's your duty as an investor to be aware of the kind of risks your business face, and at the same time accept the risks which you are comfortable with based on your risk tolerance. So research is not a process where you zero down the risk absolutely and then you go out and invest. It's we believe it's a process of finding out where the risk lie, trying to judge the probability of the same playing out, and from time to time making a call as to what risks to accept and what risks to reject. So I think with the introduction of SMART, we will dive into each and every sub-segment of our SMART framework. And as I said in the beginning, we are going to share a lot of examples which will help you understand our thought process, which will help you understand how we try to avoid risks which come from these five areas. So we'll start with the strong business, right? And here we have a quote from the legendary investor Warren Buffett, who says that when a management with a reputation for brilliance tackles a business with a reputation for bad economics, it's the reputation of business that stays intact. Now, of course, in the Indian context, we have something which is coming, something very different, which is coming in the further slides. But sticking to this slide, Mr. Buffett says that when a good management is, trying to run a business which is which has bad economics, it's the economics of the business which stays intact. So therefore, we say that we want to invest in businesses which are strong. Now, what are strong businesses, right? Let's try to understand that. So as far as strong businesses are concerned, we have divided strong businesses into qualitative as well as quantitative characteristics. So I think without further ado, we'll dive into examples. So firstly, we'll discuss qualitative characteristics where we have a brand recall. Now, a business which enjoys a strong brand recall, in our understanding, uh, is a strong business. Now, right now, I'll hand it over to Parth to give you an example of PV fintech.
Uh, so, when you search, simply go on Google and search for buy insurance online. So, other than if you were to ignore the sponsored ads, right, the first link that you will always see is of the Policy Bazaar, right? As you can see, we have highlighted here. So this shows that the kind of brand recall and that the PB fintech has, yeah, Policy Bazaar has. And if you were to even correlate that to the website traffic data that Policy Bazaar and Pesa Bazaar has, so you can see direct plus organic search. It's basically 32 plus 48, and 80 to 90% of their search is directly either coming to their website or they're searching for policybazaar.com or pesabazaar.com, right? So that is the kind of brand recall this Policy Bazaar has. Huh. Uh, not Another characteristic of a good, strong business is that they are the lowest cost producer. So if you look at the example of PKT, uh, they are, if I compare to the Michelin, which is the global leader, uh, in terms of raw material cost, probably Michelin is an example, as an advantage. But when you compare it on an employee cost basis, our employee cost is significantly lower than that of a Michelin, obviously because India is a low labor cost and everything. But naturally, this gives BKT an edge in the market, which has resulted in BKT having EBITDA margin of 24-26% compared to 17 to 19% for the Michelin. One interesting thing why we are you're seeing the raw material cost as a percentage of revenue being lower for Michelin and higher for PKT is something that Michelin sells for 100, BKT sells for 80 rupees. And when you do that, naturally your raw material cost as a percentage will increase. But if BKT sells the same product for 100 rupees, the raw material cost would be same, more or less. So naturally, because of low labor cost, BKT has a huge advantage in India, uh, which is why it is able to compete in the international market. Take me another slide. Now coming to the third one. So having backward and forward integration again gives you a cost advantage. So for example, if you again take the example of PB Fintech, right? So what they did was uh, until 2021 they were actually an web aggregator and not insurance broker, which they currently are. Now the major difference between a web aggregator and insurance aggregator is that uh, you first cannot assist, you cannot have claim assistance. Now, for example, if let's say in 2020, I were to go to Policy Bazaar and buy their policy. आई वुड हैव बॉट द पॉलिसी बट जब क्लेम असिस्टेंस का टाइम आता ना तो पॉलिसी साहब बोलता भाई मेरे से तो नहीं होगा, तुम देख लो कहीं और, तुम सीधा एचडीएफसी लाइफ या आईसीआईसीआई प्रू लाइफ या उसकी वेबसाइट पे जाके अपना क्लेम ले लो, हम लोग उसमें इन्वॉल्व नहीं हो सकते, राइट, विच एक्ट्स एज अ हर्डल कि यार मैं तुमसे ले रहा हूँ एंड तुम मुझे सेटलमेंट में हेल्प नहीं कर रहे हो, राइट। बट जैसे ही तुम इनको वो इंश्योरेंस ब्रोकर का लाइसेंस मिला, दैट चेंज्ड फॉर देम। सेकेंडली, being an insurance agent, broker, whatever you may say it, if I'm selling insurance, my main incentive is to earn the trail income because day one पे मैं जो effort डाल रहा हूँ मुझे वो trail income कमानी है, right? Being an aggregator, उनको life insurance पे वो trail income की permission नहीं थी by IRDAI, right? Which significantly hindered the profitability obviously, but तो उसके बाद वो भी चीज उनके लिए enable हो गई। जैसे in mutual fund there are sub distributors that you can hire. Insurance maybe you can hire your basically sub agents which are called POSP network, right? तो ये सब चीजों की वजह से essentially what happened is कि PB fintech को basically उसने forward integrate किया अपने business में, उसने वापस and recently in 2023 they got री-इंश्योरेंस ब्रोकर लाइसेंस। तो बेसिकली जो री-इंश्योरेंस होता है कि किसी सपोज HDFC लाइफ ने या LIC ने कोई इंश्योरेंस लिया, what they do is they sell that bulk of the insurance to some third party reinsurance to navigate their risk. Now PB fintech can even become that broker between those. So what they are doing is essentially इसकी वो लोग forward integrate करते जा रहे हैं अपने business के अंदर ही insurance के अंदर और penetrate करते जा रहे हैं to increase their product offering, right? Another example if I have to take is of IOL Chemical. So again, IOL Chemical is a market leader in ibuprofen. And why this has happened is because उसने KSM, not even intermediate, KSM तक उसने अपना basically backward integrate पूरा करके रखा है, right? And generally होता कैसा है कि जो regulatory market होते हैं, your margins are tend to be better in regulatory market compared to a semi-regulated market, right? So they're forward integrated and US, Europe, Russia ये सब market में भी they are selling their product. तो एंड टू एंड केएसएम से लेके तुम रेगुलेटेड मार्केट में बेच रहे हो तो तुम्हें द मार्जिन्स दैट दे आर गेटिंग इज फिनोमिनल इन आइबुप्रोफेन एंड एक लीडरशिप ऑटोमेटिकली एस्टेब्लिश हो गई व्हेन यू कंप्लीट एंड टू एंड सप्लाई चेन में होते हो। तो नेक्स्ट एग्जांपल इज साइतना नाइट्रोक्रेम व्हिच आई थिंक संजय विल टेक।
Sure. So, in the case of Sadhana Nitrogam, so over the years, Sadhana Nitrogam has been into the specialize in nitrobenzene related products. So over the years, they are only focusing on towards the nitrobenzene. Now recently, so over the years nothing has been changed in the company. They are the largest or specialized producer in ODB2. Then there is a largest producer in MAP. Recently, very recently, they cracked the PAP version, para-aminophenyl version from the green energy. So that gives an edge over a period of time. So how they are forward integrating themselves in the value chain of nitrobenzene, and from that itself they are creating themselves a very good in terms of margin as well, and in terms of product related portfolio as well. So in the case of PAP as well, now they are moving towards hydrobenzene, which is again would be so to prepare a nitrobenzene or PAP, you require nitrobenzene and water in the plant. So for the water, for electricity and water related products, they are doing a 15 to 16 megawatt of hydrocarbon through the form of renewable energy. So they are moving towards end-to-end value chain, and that will going forward will lead to a very good stabilize in the specialized business of nitrobenzene, and that gives them edge over a period of time. So that's how for a company which is present in across the value chain and focus on one particular value chain and understand the value chain, will form a very good part of their journey going forward, or in the existing plan as well. Yeah, over to you, Navid.
Yes, I think after discussing brand recall, low-cost producer, and backward and forward integration, I think we have few companies who enjoy revolutionary technology, right? Yeah. So there is a company called FL India Limited. Now it is into performance-based marketing. So the company, provides marketing services which are, only and only specific to the mobile device. So now how the industry globally operates. So globally, this industry does not operate in a ROI-driven model. Now, globally, the industry operates either on a cost per click basis. That means the service provider charges its customer for showing the advertisement based on clicks on that advertisement, or it also operates on a cost per impression model. Now, in both these models, the advertiser is unable to understand the return on investment which he is getting on spending behind that particular advertisement. Now, FL, which is an Indian company, proudly has challenged the traditional way of doing business and has come up with a model which is called CPCU, cost per converted user. Now, how this model works is that if FL is given a particular task by its client, let's say, for example, there is a company which wants more and more users to download its app, and that company gives FL an opportunity to provide its services to that company, saying that, okay, boss, I want more and more users to download my app. Now, FL will only earn money when a user downloads its app versus other traditional methods like CPC and CPM. Now, here, when a user downloads its app, you can, uh, the marketer can understand the return on investment which he or she is getting based on his investment behind marketing. So that is how FL has traditionally changed the way of doing business traditionally, right? And over the years, FL has done phenomenally well in the CPCU side of its business. So if you see the amount of converted users and the growth, the converted users have grown at a CAGR of 47% in the last 5 years. And similarly, the CPCU revenue of the company has grown at a CAGR of 56%. Currently, if you see, more than 95% of FL's revenue comes from this CPCU business. And that is what we believe is a revolutionary tech which FL has created for itself, which even Western counterparts are not able to do. So that is why we believe FL has portrayed characteristics of a strong business by developing a revolutionary technology for itself. Next, we have, there are a few companies who create such a relationship with their customers that relationship itself gives them an edge over competition, and therefore they end up becoming strong businesses. Now, PI Industries is a premier example of how relationships are managed. So, there is a custom synthesis business of PI Industries, which is nothing but its exports business, where the company exports its products to the globe across the globe to clients. PI Industry started doing this business at a very nascent stage and tied up with a few Japanese customers. Now, mind you, working with Japanese customers is extremely difficult because they are very finicky on quality as well as efficiency. So over a long period of time, what PI has done is PI has uh, built such strong relationship with its customers that PI today, as it's mentioned in the conference call by the management, that PI has ranked among the top three CSM players globally, and the company has, been doing remarkable business in terms of complex operations, right? And the management also goes on to say that our relationship with global innovators have grown deep, both at a product sourcing level and also at a process level, right? So the current virtuous cycle which PI is currently witnessing. So we all are aware that the chemical industry is currently going through tough times, but PI is one player which has stood out and which has defied the current trend and has been showing remarkable growth quarter on quarter. That is, only possible because of the strong relationship with PI, which PI enjoys, and the reason that it operates in early stage molecules, which are generally high growing in nature. Second example of such relationship can be observed in Varun Beverages. Now, Varun Beverages is working with PepsiCo in India, is the largest bottler for PepsiCo in India since the last 3 decades, and their operations currently span into 6 countries. Now, very recently, uh, what the company has done is the company has acquired a company called Bevco. Now, Bevco is engaged in the business of manufacturing and distribution of products, under the brand PepsiCo in regions like South Africa, Namibia, Botswana, etc. Right. So now with this acquisition, what Varun Beverages will end up doing is Varun Beverages will deepen its ties with PepsiCo. Obviously, it has gained a lot of trust of PepsiCo because again, it has been into association with PepsiCo since the last 32 years, and 90% of 90% of the volumes which Varun Beverages currently does comes from the brand PepsiCo. So this is another example where a long relationship is becoming even stronger, and that is giving Varun Beverages an advantage over other players in the market and creating a strong business for Varun Beverages. So after discussing how customer trust and relationship with the customer becomes a very strong moat for a company, there are a few companies which have shown a characteristic of innovating constantly. We believe IEX and APL Apollo are very good examples which fit into this constant innovation category. So if you look at IEX, so when IEX initially started its business, the kind of products which you are able to see on the screen right now were not present. Over a period of time, with the help of the feedback received by the company from the market, with the help of constant thought process around how to make the business better, IEX has managed to constantly come up with newer and newer offerings, which has become a boon to a lot of its customers, as well as and eventually the company, because if your customer is happy, eventually your business does well. So IEX is one such example where company has constantly come up with new products, constantly innovated, trying to stay ahead of the curve, and obviously has gained benefits. You can currently look at the market share which the company enjoys. It's basically a 95% plus market share which the company enjoys. So a large part of this credit goes to the constant innovation which the company has been involved into. Similarly, APL Apollo, again, a very well-known company, has created a lot of wealth for its shareholders. Now, if you go, a couple of steps deeper and try to understand what has been the secret sauce or what has been one of the, components which has delivered such kind of, which has resulted in company delivering such strong returns, you will find that company has been number one in India in multiple products. So if you see here, we have taken a couple of snapshots from its annual report. So there are 8 to 10 products, which are 8 to 10 products or types of manufacturing that the company has mentioned, where company has been the pioneer in India. And that is what, again, the company is only saying that now this out of the box thinking has resulted in, company being much ahead of competition in India, and therefore being able to create the kind of market, therefore being able to create the kind of business which it has created. So I think these are a couple of examples which explain how constant innovation, builds a strong business, right? Then there are business which are incubating smaller opportunities which have a huge potential of becoming big. Now here we in our research journey we came across a couple of examples, right? First is Case Technologies. So Case Technologies is in the EMS business right now and has been growing phenomenally well. The company has been reporting extremely good numbers, extremely good margins. But at the same time, the company has been silently creating two businesses, which has the potential of becoming closer to or even bigger than the existing EMS business. So what is the company doing? So company has backward integrated into manufacturing PCB, which is nothing but the green PCB panel board, which each and every electronic device has, as well as company has backward integrated into OSAT facility. For ease of explanation, let's try to understand. Let's term it as semiconductor space. So company has been backward integrating into manufacturing PCB as well as manufacturing semiconductors. Now, if you look at the size of the industries, uh, if you look at the size of industries in 2022, the semiconductor market in India itself was around $27 billion. Now that this market is growing at a 20% rate and is expected to reach at $80 billion by 2028, right? Now 2028, if you multiply it with the current exchange rate, this market is going to be upwards of 65,000 crores in FY28 if in 2028 if these numbers were to come true. But similarly, the Indian PCB market also is 20,000 crores. It was 20,000 crores in FY20 and is expected to become a 52,500 crores market by FY26. Now, both these, so currently, just to give you a perspective, currently, Keynes clocks a sales of around 1,500, 1,600 crores. Now, even if Keynes is able to, take on a small pie of both these markets or any one of these markets, Keynes will end up making a large business out of these forays which it has made and has backward integrated itself into manufacturing PCBs and also giving semiconductor services. Similarly, we have MCX, right? I think Parth can give us a better idea here.
So, MCX started the gold options contract, and they started with gold options contract back in 2017. And what if you observe the chart, initially in start 3-4 years, there was not much response or not much participation in the volume for the option contract. But post COVID, the things have picked up. And if you look at the options volume, it has surpassed the futures volume, which was traditionally their main product, right? And to a very large extent. Plus, today options revenue almost contributes equally to futures revenue, and it's growing at a very rapid pace. So basically, how something जो उसको 3-4 साल तक क्लिक नहीं हुई, लेकिन अचानक से वो प्रोडक्ट क्लिक हुआ, and it has significantly changed the growth trajectory for MCX. जो essentially post the 2013 their fiasco, it was an ignored stock for all the investors. But currently, if you look at the kind of volumes that they're getting and the kind of growth that they're able to command, plus other things have also are played out for them, which are going to result in margin expansion and everything. But so how the one product has changed the trajectory of a company which has been been dead for a decade basically, right? Yes, Navid. I think next example is of leverage. So it's a quantitative characteristic that we see in a business. So what happens when you take excessive leverage is that your flexibility reduces significantly, right? That is what happened with SW Solar, Sterling and Wilson. So pre-COVID, they were heavily leveraged for many n number of contracts that they were to execute. Now, because of adverse business environment, plus the fixed payment that you had to do, this resulted in they're missing the payment and getting into the bankruptcy. Obviously, they've revived since then, but this is what happens. A similar thing happened with Suzlon Energy as well, right? We all know the example. So, high leverage with adverse business environment is a deadly combination. Need to be cognizant of. Ever ready? Sanjay can take it.
So yeah, so as we all know, Everready is a very strong brand into the battery and flashlight segment. So they command in the battery segment, they command 53-54% market share, and in the flashlight also they command 55% market share. And this is a very good business. They are running like the very good business promoters. So recently, because of BM Khetan, the group promoter previously, the group promoter BM Khetan, because of their problems into the group companies, so what they did is they have pledged the Eveready and McLeod Russell shares, and they have developing a company by the name of engineering and construction company, McLeod Bharat Engineering company. So over there, there is a 3,000 crores or debt into the books, and of lately, that the debt has become very harmful in a way of the group companies. So therefore McLeod Russell and Eveready face a problems, and so that the Eveready promoters, the BM Khaitan Group, has their shareholding has reduced from 39-40% to 5-6% in a FY21 time of phase. And during that time period, Burman family, the promoter of Dabur Group, has started buying the company. So before the thought process of the Burman family to buying the company was to help the Khaitan Group. But off lately, they realized that the Khaitan Group cannot run the business, or has the visibility to run the business, and they take over the business. And after that, as we all know, Burman family has been turning around the business, and this business already command a strong brand recall. But because of group level problems or group level leverage, if I tell you, the very good business or the cash cow business has been spin off and faced the issues by the erstwhile promoter, and now the new management and new play into the pictures.
Yeah, so now that we have, understood how leverage, is really harmful, and I think multiple examples can be cited. We have just cited two examples because of, limited time. Now, secondly, all of us have, listened to this fact that, go for companies which generate high ROCs. Now, recently, so what we do is whenever we zero down on studying a company, we run a model called an accept reject model. Now, the reason for running an accept reject model is simple. We can come across glaring irregularities. So the way we have designed the model, it helps us to see glaring irregularities upfront, because as all of you would appreciate, that we have limited time and limited bandwidth, and therefore we cannot end up studying each and every company that comes, that passes through our eyes. So we have to have that minimum, criteria decided, that okay, after the minimum criteria are met, I will go ahead and look at this company. So there we were studying this company called Plasti Blends, and that is where we came across this kind of numbers. If you look at the ROC trajectory of the company from FY14 to FY23, it has been sequentially dropping like anything. So from a 22% ROC to a 6% ROC. Now the company is in the business of manufacturing master batches. There is a commoditized business, and that is what indirectly the company is also trying to tell us here. So this is a snapshot from the annual report. So annual report में यहाँ पर company ने क्या बोला है कि there was intense competition and pricing pressure from established as well as new players, and company has strategically decided to absorb the input price rise during the year. So this is just the situation which played out in FY23. But if you look at the ROC trajectory, it is continuously falling. Now, when we look at such kind of businesses, the first message which our mind gives us is, okay, boss, you must ignore this business. But at the same time, an additional point which not most of the research analysts or not most of the investors try to think is that concluding at this point may not be enough, because what if the company is currently putting efforts which can drive this ROC, which is currently standing at the bottom, from there at the a better level compared to current scenario, right? So looking at the ROC is not somewhere we conclude our analysis. We try to understand if there are any catalysts involved which can drive this ROC higher, right? And similarly, in Plasti Blends, this company started, so it ventured into something called engineering plastic compounds. right? And the company is also mentioning the fact that considering the strong positive response which the company is receiving in the engineering compounds business, they are also contemplating a expansion in the near term. So I'm not saying that, because of this expansion of because of the getting into engineering plastic compounds, the ROC will, start going up. But the point which we want to drive home here is that simply concluding your analysis by looking at a downward trajectory in ROC may not be enough. You should always try to look for catalysts if they're present. If the catalyst is not present, you can always give that company a pass. Now, after understanding how to look at ROCs and how ability to generate good ROCs is good, that we already know. Repeat customers is something which also gives us a sense of the strength of the business. Here we have Ethos example to share with you. Over to you, Parth.
So, having a repeat business, the main advantage is that, and especially on a consumer side business, where, on day one, the cost of acquiring the customer is very expensive. And you want कि जब मैंने वो कस्टमर को acquire करने में खर्चा किया है तो बार बार मुझसे खरीदना है because incremental cost is less, right? So Ethos has managed to crack that model where the repeat customer, which was almost one third around COVID, is almost close to 50% today, right? So 50% of the sales is coming from the repeat business, close to 50%. So that's an interesting number to have, right, in your business. कि आधा बिजनेस तो होने ही वाला है, कुछ भी कर लो, मैं मार्केटिंग कल नहीं करूं तो भी आधे लोग तो आ ही रहे मेरी सेल कर दें, राइट? सो very sweet spot to be in, right? And this number is actually increasing.
Then there are some players who are extremely dominant leaders. Now, the example which we would like to cite here is of Polycab India. So if you look at this chart, which the company has presented in its presentation, Polycab is doing a 12,500 crore sales in its wires and cables segment. Now, if you compare Polycab with its closest peer, Polycab is 2 times of its closest peer and almost 2.5 times of the peer who ranks number 3. Company goes on to say on its con call that we are perhaps the only company on the continent. Let me repeat, we are perhaps the only company on the continent to manufacture each and every type of cables there can be manufactured. Now, इस तरीके के स्टेटमेंट्स और इस तरीके का डेटा जब आप कंपनी की तरफ से आपको मिलता है, that gives you a sense that company has been dominating the industry like anything, and company has created something for itself, which is helping it dominate the industry in such a big way. So that getting these kind of information, getting these kind of data can also indicate that the company has built a strong business for itself. Next up, we have a category called strong challengers. Now, this is the most interesting type of businesses because the most interesting part of these businesses is their rate of change is extremely positive and the rate of change is extremely fast as well. So strong challengers करके जो ये category जिसको हम strong challengers कहते हैं, they are the businesses where maximum wealth creation generally takes place, but at the same time it's extremely difficult to identify these kind of businesses because a lot of businesses show great promise but very few are able to deliver, right? So Angel One is a prime example here. Sanjay, you can take it over.
So yeah, as Navid has said, the Angel One, during the time of COVID or before COVID, if I say, and if I tell you a decadal story back there from FY10 to FY20, we will not see Angel One, or very very less market share used to be commanded by the Angel. So over the years, over these quarters, quarter on quarter, Angel One has gained a market share like anything, and they are developing a product, developing a technology, developing a team in such a way, and so they disrupt the industry. They are becoming a big a one time a challenger, now becoming a leader in the category. So Zerodha has cracked the model. After their Angel One has consistently from nowhere in the below 10th or 12th position in the broking industry, from that position to a number two player in the industry today, has been a phenomenal journey for Angel One. And this numbers, we have not. So we can always say that, when it started, the IPO has been come, the 4.84% market share they used to command. So we will track on quarter, and if we see a jump in quarter on quarter, or a improvement in quarter on quarter, or the change in the business taking place in the company, gives a visibility that company has all the possibilities or probability to command a market share and gain a market share over a period of time. Of course, at the point of time during the 20s, we also have not thought that this can be a second largest player in the industry. But we know that the ability to gain market share has been visible in the commentary, has been visible in their actions, and which has proven them today, and has generated a huge amount of wealth for the shareholders. Over to you, Navid.
Right. Then there are a few businesses which face supplier concentration or customer concentration, and that makes them vulnerable to facing a lot of risk. So now here we don't have an example from the Indian market, because we believe this example is going to be highly impactful. That is why we have taken an example of TSMC. Now we have written that it is difficult to imagine a world without TSMC. Now, why do we say that? Right? All the high-tech companies which are currently there, with the likes of Apple, Qualcomm, AMD, Nvidia, companies which are manufacturing high-tech devices, which are manufacturing high-tech technology, all are the customers of TSMC. Now, TSMC is the largest semiconductor manufacturer, or the largest semiconductor foundry in the world, with around 59% market share, followed by Samsung, which is only at 13%. Right? So this is a highly dominant player based out of Taiwan, supplying its chips, which companies like Apple and Qualcomm and Nvidia are taking as raw materials. Now, tomorrow, if something goes wrong with TSMC, all of us understand, and all of us, know that the tension which is going on between China and Taiwan. Now, tomorrow, let's say if some geopolitical tension arises or escalates, and if TSMC is not able to deliver the kind of products it is able to deliver right now, in the volumes it is able to deliver right now, I think all the high-tech electronic manufacturers will have a very bad time if that comes out to be true. And that is why US is trying really hard, and US has definitely convinced TSMC to put up a large semiconductor manufacturing plant in I think Arizona in US. And Apple again is going to be the biggest customer for TSMC operating out of that plant. So this is how having supplier concentration can hinder. Obviously, it has not happened in the case of TSMC, but if, as I discussed, any mishap happens, the whole electronic manufacturing industry across the globe can face a really bad time. Similarly, having concentration towards one customer is also detrimental. This recently was visible in one of the companies which has again been a phenomenal wealth creator for its shareholders, which is PI Industries. Now, PI Industries has a premier customer called Kumyai Chemicals, which is a Japanese customer. Now, इसमें क्या होता है कि when PI operates with a particular customer, they enjoy a relationship which lasts for decades. And if any innovator is able to crack a particular molecule which has a strong opportunity size globally, it eventually converts into large business for PI. Now, Kumyai has cracked a molecule called pyroxasulfone, which is growing so rapidly that it is currently forming 35 to 40% of the custom synthesis revenue, which is the export business of PI, which is close to 75% contributor to current business. So out of that 75%, 30 to 40% comes from this product alone, and that product is on the name of Kumyai Chemicals. Now, currently, what happened was recently Kumyai announced its Q4 results, And Kumia in its Q4 results gave a guidance that they might, see a degrowth in the operating profit in the coming year because of, this pyroxasulfone um, getting generic, going generic in certain markets, right? Now, this obviously PI has shown, a lot of confidence in its commentary, in its conference calls, but this currently has maybe, made the market tensed about how the future is going to look like with, concentration to pyroxasulfone, which is so high, and that is going generic. Similarly, another molecule, which was an erstwhile blockbuster product for PI, which was nominee gold, was also, innovated by Kumiai Chemicals. So these kind of, having concentration to one customer, having concentration to one blockbuster product can be detrimental to companies, which can be a source of risk for investors like us, and we have to be cognizant of this fact. So I think with this, we have covered all the qualitative as well as quantitative characteristics, which gives us a sense that we are currently looking at a business which is strong. It is not that, a strong business will only have one characteristic out of this. These characteristics have a nature of coming together in bunches, right? I think with this, we'll pause for a moment and we'll take questions, Prince Bhai, if there is any.
Yes, yes, wonderful, guys. I really like the points which you covered under the smart framework, and especially the strong business. So quickly, a few questions. So basically, although you have pointed out already that there are more than one characteristics, but if we were to decide or filter on the basis of the qualitative or quantitative characteristics, so is it necessary that only one or two characteristics are sufficient, or you club more than the number of characteristics? And on the top of that, like if that is happening, although you'll be discussing about valuation and other parameters going forward, but does that only allow you to take a decision, or this is one simple filter criteria at the beginning, after which you do further filtering on those names?
So I think, as I mentioned, that these characteristics generally come in bunches, they don't come individually. And you will also come across businesses which are dominant in their industries, which are generating good ROCs, but might have some, regulatory overhang. For example, what we saw with the case of Delta Corp. Now, Delta Corp will fit in a lot of characteristics which we just mentioned, but one regulatory overhang, created nightmares for the shareholders. So I think what we have to keep in mind is strong business is just one criteria. There are multiple criteria, obviously, which we will discuss going forward, which one has to keep in mind. After, going through each and every aspect, each and every of these sources, what we try to do is we try to weigh in on the risk coming from each aspect. And if there are, let's say, three, four strong characteristics, but one risk characteristic is outweighing the weightage of those three, four, positive characteristics, we might as well want to give a pass to that particular business. So that is, I think, the answer to the first question. And secondly, obviously, uh, it is not uh, always true that businesses possessing these kind of characteristics are always available at, high valuations. India is a market currently where even small companies with very small market caps have a dominant position in their industry, right? For example, if you take an example of a company like Avanti Feeds, right? Avanti Feeds has a very small market, but dominates its business like anything, right? So India is a market where even companies with smaller market caps enjoy dominant position in their industry, and therefore sometimes ignored by the market, giving you an opportunity to enter at compelling valuations which you would like to as an investor.
Moving on to the other part, the sound management thing. So one quick question, since you cater to the fund managers, institutions, and family office for that matter. So how it goes? Like, I mean, it could be two ways in my understanding. Please correct me. Like one way is like you find out companies on your own and present the ideas or share the research with the institutions and then whatever you are catering to. And on the top of that, like they give you some names and you do research on those companies. So how exactly it goes now?
I think you were spot on in your question. I think it works both ways. Idea generation is something where so a good idea, as you would appreciate, can come from anywhere, can come from unexpected places, right? So we don't have this clear flow where we say, okay, fine, only the client has to give us the ideas and then only we'll work. If we have some good ideas, we also make sure that we give, we pass on our message to the client saying that, okay, this is something which we really like and we would like to share this information for you to understand that how why we like that particular business. And if client agrees to what we think, then obviously we also pass on our work to that client. So what you said is spot on. Idea generation works both ways, and we believe that is the best way it can be done.
So coming to the sound management thing. So basically, I would, although you'll be explaining, but again, if you can cover potential good traits about a sound management and what are few red flags or big no's when it comes to management, because whatever the framework be, if the management is not a good one, then definitely the investments have very relevance as far as making money for the investors is concerned. Yeah, over to you guys.
Right, Prince, right. So we have again, like we did for strong businesses, we have, jot down a few characteristics along with examples as to why those examples fit in those characteristics and how those characteristics can be helpful and risky. So whenever we discuss about management, this is one peculiar statement which comes to our mind, all the time, is that, and that was said by Mr. Ramdev Agrawal. He said that in India, it makes no sense to invest in a good business which is run by a bad management. It is like multiplying 100 by 0, the outcome of which is obviously going to be 0. So here, what he is trying to, make us understand is, finding the right management is paramount. And even if you are able to find a good business which is run by a management which is not willing to share the good outcomes with minority shareholders, it's going to be a useless outcome for you as an investor. Now, here are a few characteristics which we like to see when we are trying to understand the quality of the management. The first and the foremost is capital allocation, right? Now, here we have an example of a company called Vedanta. Now, what Vedanta has done over the past 3.5, 3.5 years is something which we would like to share, right? So, Vedanta generated around 1,06,000 crores cash flow in the last 3.5 years. Apart from that, Vedanta sourced another 14,200 crores by the way of borrowings, right? And on the application side of it, this is the sourcing side. So sourcing में they sourced 1,06,000 crores through operations and 14,000 crores through net borrowings. On the application side is where things get interesting and where we believe they did not allocate capital properly was, so they have, obviously Vedanta is a company which has high debt. So obviously they paid 11,600 crores worth of interest. But if you look at the dividend side of it, they paid 85,000 crores, 85,100 crores as dividends, which is basically 80% of the uh, cash flow from operations. So 80% of the cash flow which the company generated from operations in the last 3.5 years was paid out as dividends. At the same time, the debt, which was, at a much lower number 3.5 years back, now stands at 75,000 crores. So what has happened is, जितना cash flow बनाया वो dividend में दे दिया, कंपनी के balance sheet पर debt भी बढ़ गया. And maybe, one would argue that the parent company of Vedanta, which is Vedanta Resources Limited, wanted money and therefore they paid out hefty dividends for that company to pay off its debt. That has also not resulted. If you go through multiple articles which are obviously available on Google by a simple Google search, you will find that Vedanta Resources Limited is still under the debt trap which it was. तो ये जो डिविडेंड जो कंपनी के बुक से बाहर गया और प्रमोटर्स को गया या जिनको भी गया, वो शायद वो पर्पस के लिए यूज नहीं हुआ जिसके लिए वो यूज होना चाहिए था. एंड बिफोर दैट ऑल्सो कंपनी में जब आपके पास ही इतना सारा डेट है, तो रादर देन पेइंग ऑफ डिविडेंड वी वुड बिलीव दैट द आइडियल कैपिटल एलोकेशन would be to reduce your debt since you are managing to make such strong cash flows. So this is one example where we believe the capital allocation was not up to the mark, right? Second example is where we compare bearing companies and how they have allocated capital. I think Parth will explain this better. Over to you, Parth.
So, if you look at Timken India, so it has generated majority of their or source of fund has been the profit, and which is fair, which is how things should be. The same is with the SKF India, where 76% is the profit is the main source of their income, and so both of them generated. Basically, point is both of them have generated good amount of cash from their profits, right? But the different thing that Timken has done versus SKF is that Timken has invested more than 50, close to 50% of their cash generated into purchase of fixed assets, basically into their businesses, right? Purchasing the assets, capital expansion, and everything. Unlike SKF India, which has majorly has done limited amount of purchasing of asset, which has majorly gone into depreciation, basically refurnishing of assets and stuff like that, rather than doing any major capital expansion. Now, that thing is clearly evident when you look at the sales growth last 5, 10, 3 years for Timken India versus SKF India. So hands-on, Timken India has outperformed in terms of scales. We have not included the price performance, but if you were to include, look at Timken India price performance versus SKF India from 2010 or 8, Timken India has handsomely outperformed SKF India in terms of that as well. So, capital allocation, where you generate the source is important. And in that case, Timken and SKF are same. But where you reinvest that money, right, is also very important. If you keep reinvesting into your own business and are able to maintain their ROC, which Timken India is able to do that as well, right? So it rewards the shareholders definitely and shows a good capital allocation judgment of the management, right? You can take to the main slide now. Over to you.
And
Yeah.
I think continuing from what Parth said, if you look at the price performance, itself shows you how market values capital allocation over a period of time. Sometimes we feel that all these are theoretical things and ये सब theory में अच्छा लगता है, market price is driven by something else. But if you again, we are not talking about 6 months, 2 quarters, 3 quarters. We are talking about over a long period of time. All these things do matter. And if you are able to lash onto a company which is known for allocating capital properly, has done that very well in the past, and is expected to do that very well in the future, there are very good chances that you have an outperformer in your portfolio. So the point which we want to drive here is that market also puts a lot of emphasis on these kind of aspects, and these are not just theoretical in nature. After capital allocation, where we are able to find the hidden agendas of the management is the related party transactions, right? So here we would like to cite an example of a consumer durable company which is IFB Industries. Sanjay, you can take it over.
Sure, Navid. So, we all know that, as Navid has already said, management को judge करने का या to know the management better, उनकी कितनी कंपनीज में मतलब सब्सिडरीज बनाई है, एसोसिएट बनाया है, कौन सी कंपनीज में दे आर ट्राइंग टू उन्होंने द बिजनेस इज देयर विद द मेन कंपनी व्हाइल दे हैव अदर सब्सिडरीज और अदर which is not into the same business or which is they have not listed the same business to the parent company, so they are trying to do that stuff. So all of, and over a period of time, we all know that the chances of misleading the management has been come over this related party transaction or capital allocation, or we discuss going forward as well. In the same case, IFB, the related party, so IFB एप्लीकेशन ट्रैवल सिस्टम्स करके उनकी एक सब्सिडरी है और इनकी एक रिलेटेड पार्टी कंपनी है. सो अब IFB इंडस्ट्रीज का एबिडास देखोगे और वर्सेस द कंपनीज नो गिविंग द related party transaction to the same companies has been quite more or less or even higher than the EBITDA which the company is generating. While these transactions or this, and we are not saying that these transactions are fully wrong or right, but we are just trying to put it out that we should be cognizant about the things that how we should always check the related party transactions numbers and make sure that we compare with the right metrics and judge on the perspective that whether this numbers or whether this transaction makes sense into the business perspectives which the company does or not. So yeah, the travel and expenses which you see and the travel and expenses which we see in the expense as well in the IFB industry, they are both the different things. So probably, whether the amount is going in the right way or wrong way, we will not find it out in a judgment by saying it all that this is wrong or right. But we should be cognizant about these things when we invest into the businesses or try to find the ideas into the businesses. Yeah. What do you know?
Yeah, so I think just adding one point to what Sanjay said, the tricky part of investing is कई बार क्या होता है हमें जब कुछ इरेगुलर चीज दिखती है तो हमें ये पता तो चलता है कि इरेगुलर है, बट एग्जैक्टली प्रॉब्लम कहाँ है वो पिन पॉइंट कर पाना एट द फर्स्ट प्लेस बहुत मुश्किल होता है. बट आई थिंक वो इरेगुलरिटी को भी डिस्कवर करना बहुत जरूरी है बिकॉज दैट इरेगुलरिटी कैन गिव यू अ सेंस as to whether it fits in your risk management framework or not, whether it allows you to take that irregularity risk or not. तो वो irregularity पता करने से भी आप कई बार एक गलत बिजनेस में इन्वेस्ट करने से बच जाते हो. Now there are a couple of more things which we have seen and which does not make us comfortable when we look at these kind of things. So कई बार क्या होता है the company which we are trying to study, ठीक है, उसके मैनेजमेंट का ही वो कंपनी के मैनेजमेंट का ही एक प्रमोटर एंटिटी या तो वैल्यू चेन में बिजनेस कर रहा होता है या तो कंपीटिंग बिजनेस कर रहा होता है विच इज नॉट अ पार्ट ऑफ द एग्जिस्टिंग कंपनी विच वी आर स्टडी. So these two aspects makes us uncomfortable, and we were able to in our study very recently we were able to find both these aspects in a company called DCX Systems. Now DCX Systems again is into defense EMS, a very hot space right now. Company has also done really well, but if you look at the group companies and its structuring, it might want to make you think twice before becoming really positive about this company. So अगर group companies हम देखें, so there are four companies which form a part of group companies for DCX system. First is the Renil Technologies, which is a wholly owned subsidiary and which is done, which is established for backward integration efforts. जब wholly owned subsidiary होता है तो you don't question too much because whatever transaction you do with that wholly owned subsidiary is the part of the consolidated financial statement which you observe. Things become tricky when the existing company or your company is dealing with promoter entities or other related entities which do not form the part of the consolidated financials. Now here, if you look at one company, if you look at the second company, which is RNSE Tronics, it is a promoter group company and it is in the business of selling electronic components. Now, one interesting part is Mr. H.S. Raghavendra Rao, who is the chairman and managing director of the company, is also the director of RNSE Tronics. And if you look at the related party transactions for the financial year ended 2023, you will be able to see that company has purchased 745 crores. These numbers are in million. 745 crores worth of raw materials in the year 2023. Similarly, for the year FY22 also, the company has done material purchases from this related party called RNSE Tronics, which has been, the managing director, Mr. H.S. Raghavendra Rao, is also the director of RNSE Tronics. तो इस तरीके का जब हम स्ट्रक्चरिंग देखते हैं कि प्रमोटर की कोई एंटिटी ही हमारी मेन एंटिटी को रॉ मटेरियल सप्लाई कर रही है या तो फिर हमारी मेन एंटिटी से फिनिश गुड्स परचेज कर रही है, we always become skeptical of this fact because ऐसा नहीं कह सकते कि this is absolutely wrong or there is some mishappening definitely which is taking place. But this kind of structuring, which I just explained, gives management a room to do some maneuvering of funds, which is not good for the shareholders. तो इस तरीके की जब आप स्ट्रक्चरिंग देखते हो तो ऑटोमेटिकली लाइट शुड स्पार्क इन योर माइंड सेइंग कि ओके फाइन, I am able to see this structuring, and this structuring by its nature gives management a room to maneuver, which might not be in my favor. Therefore, I have to be cognizant of this fact. Similarly, DCX की ही continue करेंगे. If you look at the other two companies after RNS Electronics, there are two companies. One is DCX Coal Enterprise and one is Venus Innovation Technologies. Now, again, these two are also promoter group companies. Now, what becomes interesting is if you try to see the explanation of both these companies. So, company explicitly saying that both these companies operate in the same business in which DCX is operating. So, this is basically a promoter entity operating as a competitor of the existing entity. Now, in our research, we also went to the website of IAI, which is Israel Aerospace Group, right? Which happens to be the largest client of DCX. जब हम Israel Aerospace Group की इंडिया की वेबसाइट पर गए, we were able to find a lot of partnerships which the company has done with a lot of Indian companies, and we were able to find a company called Venus, which is nothing but the promoter entity. So here we could find a promoter entity which is competing with the existing entity and is also doing business with the largest customer of my existing entity. Now, again, coming to the previous point, we are not saying that this is 100% wrong, but this is something which makes us uncomfortable. After this political exposure, I'm sure all of us have, listened to a lot of stories. Promoter is politically exposed, and therefore, one has to stay away from that business, or one has to be cognizant of the fact that politically promoter is politically exposed. Again, this is just an example which we came across while studying a company called SIS. Maybe Sanjay can take it over and explain further.
So yeah, nothing. The point being is here is no, it is good. Sometimes it is good for the company. Sometimes it is bad for the company. But from the shareholders' perspective or from the investor perspective, we should be cognizant about the fact that this company may be or may not be hovering around or manipulating things. And I'm not saying the SIS is doing that, but the case point being here is they are they are, as Navid had said, they are exposed with political parties, and this gives a room to do many many miscalculation or win the orders from the government or something sort of like that. So just to be aware that which promoters or which parties or which investors, or while analyzing the same, whether this is a and we all know that to be in the good point where the government lies or the policies of the government lies, and you are with the government because government gives a tailwind to the industry or the sector or the company sometimes. So we will generate good amount of if we spot on to finding out that government policies or regulation change on the time. So we will spot on to generating a huge wealth over a period of time. But we should be cognizant of the fact that government can change their stance anytime if they want to. So that's the sole purpose to highlighting that no, we should be look forward whether this company as a how is the company operating their business or the promoter entity level or the investor perspective level. Yeah, go ahead, Navin.
So next up is, again, this is a very important aspect which helps us understand the quality of management, right? We all love managements which walk the talk, right? मैनेजमेंट जो स्ट्रॉन्ग एग्जीक्यूशन पोर्ट्रे करता है वो सबको पसंद है एंड वी हैव कम अक्रॉस वन सच मैनेजमेंट इन द फॉर्म ऑफ IDFC फर्स्ट बैंक which again Sanjay will explain in much detail.
Yeah. So as Navid has already said, uh, जो कंपनीज और जो मैनेजमेंट जो बात करते हैं ओवर अ पीरियड ऑफ टाइम इन देयर कॉन कॉल और इन देयर public appearance, and if they are able to spot on the same with a particular given period of time, we would love partner with the same management. The same is the case with the IDFC First Bank. The it is merge entity with capital merge entity of Capital First and IDFC limit IDFC Bank, which forms a part of the previous management. So IDFC First Bank is now run by V Vaidyanathan. And during the time of the merger, in the initial phase of the merger, V Vaidyanathan has said that and come up the 5 years plan, and they said that the problems lies in the bank, but I will change the problems, and in 3 to 4 years you will see the stark differences. But for any investors or for any investors, 5 years stuck, it is a difficult time. But if we try to check quarter on quarter, the performance are spot on, given by the guidance given by the management. And we can see quarter on quarter performance in the IDFC First Bank. So standing towards December 19, when the IDFC First Bank merger happened, and standing today, the metrics which has been pointed out by the metrics which has been pointed out by the management has been spot on all the parameters. So barring one, that is cost to income ratio, all other metrics has been in the favor of the bank and guided by the management. And we all love to partner such kind of management in our investing journey. And once we find out that that particular kind of management, we should or we remain intact with the partnering with the same management over a period of time. Now, over to you, Navid.
So after this, sometimes I think this theme has become really prevalent of late. Whenever we see a good management coming into a company which is struggling, we often, right now, the investors get really excited, right? So there is one such company called Butterfly Gandhimati Appliances, where we believe a strong promoter has already stepped in, though there are no green shoots which are currently visible, despite entry of the better promoter. So what happened was Crompton and Greaves announced an acquisition of a controlling stake in Butterfly Gandhimati, and they acquired a 55% stake in around 1400 rupees a share, and then they also opened an open offer at around 1435 rupees. So they have completed their purchase of the complete 75% stake in Butterfly Gandhimati at around 1420 to 1415 to 1420 rupees. Now, currently, the price at which Butterfly is quoting is much lesser than what Crompton entered into. But rather than focusing on price, we should focus on something which is, highlighted by Crompton very recently in its con call. So, what has Crompton done, right? Crompton, after entering into Butterfly, has taken some really hard steps. Now, Butterfly was a business which was highly corporate gifting driven. So Crompton decided this quarter that okay, fine, let's leave that business on the table and become an entity which is a well diversified entity and not a seasonal entity. So Crompton said, okay, fine, we don't want sales which are lumpy in nature. Similarly, initially when Butterfly was taken over by Crompton, it was a highly e-commerce driven franchise. Again, Crompton intervened and reduced the e-commerce part of it, tried to increase the traditional channel part of it where it is strong, and most importantly, if you see the commentary of the management, they are saying, having said that, we do not want to compromise on advertisement spending. So they are doing what is right for the business rather than being focused on the stock price or being focused on the reaction of the market, etc. They are doing what is right for the business. They are letting go sales which are not good quality in nature. They are stepping up advertisement spending, which is obviously something which is really important for a consumer facing company. And most importantly, operationally also, they are trying to establish the production facilities in such a way that Crompton's product, which are currently heavily outsourced, are manufactured into Butterfly Gandhimati's facilities, giving a cost advantage to the combined entity. At the same time, they are giving Butterfly an advantage in the form of a strong distribution, a strong pan-India distribution which Crompton enjoys. So going forward, what Crompton is trying to do is Crompton is trying to make Butterfly products available at a pan-India level, which is currently a very south-focused brand. So Crompton is trying to, in its true sense, Crompton is trying to bring out the power of one and trying to operate as a singular entity. The company also tried to merge both these entities, but shareholders did not approve that transaction, and therefore the merger is not going through anymore. But if you look at what the management is doing on ground, you will feel that yes, the management is taking the right steps, is doing the right things which are in the interest of the business in the long run. Obviously, the share price is not, market is not currently acknowledging this fact, and obviously, this is because numbers are also not reflecting the efforts which the company has done till date. So this is how we believe, a strong management or a seasoned management entering into a business which is not that strong can create a huge difference. And here is one example which we wanted to cite. Now, managements are supposedly smart people, right? But these smart people also do things which are not really smart or, sometimes funny in nature. So this is what we were able to observe in a company called Man Industries. Again, a sector which is in super tailwind, stock has done really well. But if you look at what happened, so what happened was SEBI directed Man Industries to come up with proper disclosures. So what happened was SEBI initiated some kind of an investigation on Man Industries, I think a long time back, but SEBI was able to find out that Man Industries did not inform the exchanges properly about that particular search operation, and therefore, SEBI directed Man Industries to again go to the stock exchanges and give that clarification that SEBI conducted an audit on us. So Man Industries came up with this clarification on 10th May 2022. And obviously, as it happens, the next day itself, the stock fell by 14 to 15%. Now, owing to this correction, maybe the promoter got excited or I don't know what happened. The promoter missed out on the ongoing silent period which was taking place at that point and went on and bought 1 lakh shares of the company from the open market. Now, this is what happened next, right? Few days later or sometime later, there was another announcement which said that the company has violated the SEBI code of conduct under the Prohibition of Insider Trading Act, and this is exactly the explanation which I would read out for you. They said that the management has purchased 1 lakh equity shares of the company during the trading window closure period, right? And therefore they had to pay a penalty, which is again a very small penalty. But these kind of activities, so they say, right, action speaks louder than words. So if you are able to find these kind of subtle activities by the management, now you don't expect a listed company to miss out on such simple, such silly compliances, right? Again, it has nothing to do with the stock price. Stock price has to, has done its own journey. But this is something which we were able to find, and when once we see these kind of activities done by the management, it becomes really difficult to trust these managements. So I think with this, we conclude our management part of the SMART framework. And again, we can take questions, Prince Bhai, if you have any.
Right, Navid.
Great points, team. So capital allocation is indeed very important aspect. So there could be two things which come to my mind. One is like that the management is doing wrong capital allocation on purpose, and the other could be the management is not aware of what it is venturing into, be it like unrelated venture or similar kind of thing. So how you can make a segregation, because as you explained in the last point, smart people doing dumb things. So this mental model or this framework can also be like seen in the light of capital allocation. So how we can make a segregation, and on the top of that, like also if you could highlight like meeting the management is again one way of screening them, and be it the body language or the hunky dory stories the management telling us or the people who are meeting. So how to like make a segregation that the pointers being discussed by the company are not out of ill intention or so as to project themselves good. How you make a segregation, and on the top of that, like if you do not get any chance to meet any management, are there enough resources so as to understand the company and make a investable decision?
So, I think multiple questions. Answering your first one, where you asked that, management is venturing into a business which is unrelated. So, sometimes what happens is management takes on a new venture in a big way, and on the flip side, management takes on a new venture in a way where it is, kind of testing waters. So how we look at it is testing waters, trying to expand your wings and become a more diversified player is something where we are ready to give you a benefit of doubt. But if the management is venturing out into a unrelated business in a big way, we might want to look at some execution on the table and then maybe say, yes, the management has taken the right call. So I think that is how we would like to look at the first aspect which you said.
So to add, what Navid had said for the first point, in the 2020s, or I don't remember the exact year, but BKT trying to venturing out, expanding their wings in the US businesses. So they're trying to set up the US business, and that's a big amount they are trying to spend over there. And in the same way, the shareholders the has not liked that way, and the stock price has corrected over that period. And eventually, or within a stipulated time, the company has changed the decision, not necessarily because of the share price change, but they find out that the decision is not right to moving out that businesses away from the low cost producer to now moving to the country where the cost production is higher and moving there. So so that's gives you the how management is quick, flexible enough to change their decision, or how much, as Navid said, how much the bigger side they are betting on.
So just to give you a classic example of this, Pidilite Industry is an excellent example. So those guys are acquisition driven, but those guys do not acquire 1,000, 2,000 crore businesses. What they generally do is they acquire 50, 100 crore businesses. If they fail, it's not going to impact the balance sheet materially for Pidilite. But if they succeed, it can drastically change the journey or the business prospect for the company. So for example, all this Doctor Fixit and all those brands, right? And those brands were not organically built by Pidilite. It was more those brands which were acquired for 100, 200, 300 crores, and then over a period of time, using the distribution network and the strength, they have built on it. So those kind of companies where they're doing the capital allocation, as Navid rightly said, testing the waters कि ठीक है ये brand छोटा सा है लेके देखते हैं, सक्सेसफुल हुआ तो ठीक है, नहीं हुआ तो देयर आर एन नंबर ऑफ स्केलेटल्स विद पिडिलाइट इंडस्ट्रीज जो उन्होंने एक्वायर किए नहीं चले, बट उनका ना आरओसी इम्पैक्ट हुआ उसकी वजह से, ना उनके मार्जिन इम्पैक्ट हुए, ना ही उनकी बैलेंस शीट स्ट्रेंथ खत्म हुई, राइट? सो डूइंग दोज थिंग्स इज prudent capital allocation again.
Say one is like when we get to meet a management, what all we can judge from the talks or maybe the body language of the management, and on the top of that, if what happens most of the times for most of the companies, that we are not able to meet the managements, right? In that case, do you think like without meeting a management, also we can holistically do a good research basis which we can take our investment decisions?
I think one thing that you can do is just check if you post meeting with the management, and this happened recently with us. We met one sub 100 crore company management, and management blatantly said that they are debt free and they do not have any debt on their balance sheet. But when we went back and checked the numbers, actually company had 11 13 odd crores of debt. So cross check whatever the management says, whether it adds with the number or not, it's just a qualitative commentary that the management has given. It's a basic thing, I think. By not even meeting from con calls or even on the management interviews also, you always cross check the data that they are speaking of.
I think trust but verify can be a good mental model which we can
Right.
give to the participants out there. You should trust, but you should obviously verify as to what they are saying is true or it does make sense. I think all these things can be answered by just wearing a common sense hat. If you keep your common sense meter on, I think you are most of the times you will be able to take care of yourself. Yes. Prince
And
bhai.
so finally, coming to the last question, that how should, if people are not meeting management, how should judge the characteristic of the management? So I think this 8 points that we have discussed, if you actually see, none of them are involved or with की मैनेजमेंट से बात करके इसमें पॉइंट्स में से कुछ आइडिया लगेगा. ये सारे के सारे पॉइंट इंडिपेंडेंट पॉइंट्स है. जस्ट बाय रीडिंग एनुअल रिपोर्ट्स और doing the simple Google search, you can get insight on all these 8 points, which gives you a fairly good understanding of management thought process, management का approach, and management अपने business को कैसे देखता है basically.
We
Yeah.
all agree that the accountants are the smartest people, and rather saying them the artist is not a something which we don't agree to. So accounting is again a very important aspect when it comes to like scrutinizing or doing due diligence in the companies. So I quickly asked the team that if you can run us through the third aspect, which is clean accounting, and what all characteristics you see and how they can be helpful for our audience as well, like if they have to do it on their own. So some basic hygiene check on the 6 7 points you have had your presentation.
Sure, Prince bhai. We'll again, before diving into the pointers, specific pointers, we'll again go back to the late Charlie Munger, who has taught us immensely. So he says that you have to know accounting. So, and I think all of us will agree to this fact that knowing accounting is a language of business, and you must have to, know it. Again, he goes on to say it's a language of practical business. It was a very useful thing delivered to the civilization, right? He says, however, double entry system was a hell of an innovation. So again, we all believe that accounting is something which you must know, and then only you will be able to understand. Even if there is any mishappening, then and only then you will be able to understand what is the kind of mishappening which is currently going on in the company. So accounting is something which one has to know. Now coming to the pointers, what we say is clean accounting in the companies we invest is a must, because as we previously mentioned, right, कि पूरे हमारे जो एनालिटिकल प्रोसेस है जिसके अंदर हम बहुत सारे डिसीजंस लेते हैं जो, या बहुत सारे जजमेंट्स जो हम लेते हैं, और a large part of their judgment or a large part of their decision making is hinging on numbers which are provided by the company. Now, if the numbers which are provided by the company, the data which is provided by the company, that itself, stands unreliable, the judgments, no matter how smart we are in taking judgments, no matter how smart we are in understanding and deciphering things, no matter how good a second, third, fourth, fifth level thinker you are, you will falter. We believe that if you wear a common sense hat, you most of the cases, again, you should be able to take care of yourself. And we are going to cite some examples where just by doing some commonsensical checks, we were able to find irregularities. Just by thoroughly going through a certain set of primary sources provided by the company, we were able to find irregularities. So what we are going to share is not something which is over the top, something which only somebody with a chartered accountant degree will only able to do. It's something which is very commonsensical, anybody can do most of the times. So there's a very nice quote by Tony Robbins which says that the problem is never about the resources, it's always about resourcefulness. So there are ample amount of resources which helps you, wear that common sense hat and try to find irregularities. But most of the times what happens is, because our own lack of resourcefulness, we are not able to uncover the irregularities which we should as a research analyst or as an investor. Now, without wasting much time, so there is a very basic check which is called PET check. Now, this is nothing but PET stands for power, employee, and tax. Now, no matter what business you are trying to understand, no matter the scale of the business, these are three expenses, or two of these three expenses are something which every company will have to incur. सारी कंपनी को पावर में खर्चा करना पड़ता है, सारी कंपनी को एम्प्लॉय लगा के काम करना पड़ता है, और इवेंचुअली सारी कंपनी को टैक्स देना पड़ता है, राइट? देयर आर ओनली टू सर्टेन थिंग्स इन द वर्ल्ड, डेथ एंड टैक्सेस. तो टैक्सेस भी सभी को भरने पड़ते हैं. तो सिंपली हम क्या करते हैं, वी सिंपली डू अ पीईटी चेक. So what we do is we check power as a percentage of sales, employee cost as a percentage of sales, and tax rate. इन तीन चीजों को चेक करने से ही कई बार हम लोगों को बहुत सारी irregularities मिल जाती है, and we are able to say कि maybe the accounts which are presented to us might not be in order, right? One such example जिसके बारे में हमने एक लंबा सा ट्वीट भी लिखा था very recently is M-Cloud. Now, M-Cloud is currently a 7,000 crore company, right? And when was the last time you saw a 7,000 crore company paying a median remuneration per annum to its employee of just 30,000 rupees? आज के जमाने में कौन ऐसा एम्प्लॉय है जो पूरे साल 30,000 रुपए की सैलरी में काम करेगा? I don't think there is going to be any such case which you will find, right? Similarly, again a very commonsensical point. If you look at the annual report of the company, and if you compare the median salary which the company paid in FY22 versus FY23, you will see that in FY22 company used to pay 77,000 rupees of salary per annum per employee, which is again very low. But it has become even lower to 30,700 rupees. Now, पहली बात तो इतना कम सैलरी में काम कौन करेगा? That's a first question which we encountered. And second question was 51% का सैलरी ड्रॉप कौन सी कंपनी में होता है? Even if you run a business where sales growth is not happening or sales growth is taking place in single digits, वहां पर भी कोई एम्प्लॉय आपको ये नहीं बोलेगा कि सर our company is not growing that fast, let me take a salary cut. Employees would say, give me at least a reasonable salary hike. So in this case, we are not looking at a salary hike, we are looking at a salary cut, and that to a 52% salary cut, which is extremely surprising. So two irregularities in one table. 30,000 रुपया पर एनम में एम्प्लॉय काम कर रहा है, और पिछले साल से इस साल में 51% से सैलरी गिरा दी. Now see what happens, how the market ignores these things in the short run and rewards these kind of companies. If you look at the last 1 year stock price of this company has rallied like anything. So I think the stock price has went 5x, 6x in the last 1 year. Obviously, in the last couple of days, there has been some fall, but even if you take that fall into account, the return which this company has generated over the last 1 year has been phenomenal, right? So again, coming back to the point कि ये चीज गलत है, ये चीज फ्रॉड है, ऐसा कह पाना इतने डेटा से पॉसिबल नहीं है, बट इतना जरूर कह सकते हैं कि ये चीज इरेगुलर. And I think that is enough for you as an investor to give a pass to a lot of companies, because there are 2,000 companies or at least 1,500 companies which are worthwhile for investing in the stock market. You can give pass to multiple ideas and eventually still end up making a handsome return, because what you want over a period of time is 10, 15 good ideas which play out the way you want them to play out. So this is one, uh, again, by doing a commonsensical check, we were able to find out irregularities. There was no rocket science involved. There was no financial, uh, you know, terms involved here. It was very simple. Second, and again, one of the most simplest part of research, which is often ignored, is reading auditors' comments very, very closely. Now, there is a company called Man Industries, right? If you look at the secretarial auditor and secretarial audit report, you will find a couple of paragraphs which are eye-popping. First one is that the auditor has mentioned that as per accounting standard 110 issued by the ICAI, the company has not consolidated financial statement for one of its subsidiary companies called Merino Shelters. Now, it's a basic rule that if you have a subsidiary as a company, you have to consolidate and present your financial statements. Now, this company year by year has not done so and has been citing the reason that, okay, fine, we are looking to sell this company off. This company has a certain assets which we don't want, we want to sell it off, and therefore we will not consolidate this company, right? So this is something which is again an irregularity which should not be the case, but unfortunately is the case with this company. Second paragraph, which is even more eye-popping and also might bring a smile to your face, is that the company has failed to comply with certain regulations and has given an explanation and justification in that aspect. Now see what the company is trying to tell you. Company is saying due to oversight, the company has missed to submit. However, the listed entity has complied with the said regulation from the quarter ended 31st December 2022 onwards, and the company will be more careful in future. Now, if you remove the thought of the company from your mind, and I'll just give you the reason, you would say this is some small child giving me a silly excuse. This is not something which you would expect out of listed companies mentioning कि यार सर इग्नोर हो गया हमसे ओवरसाइट की वजह से हम आपको ये चीज रिपोर्ट नहीं कर पाए, बट डोंट वरी, यू ट्रस्ट मी, आई हैव complied with the said regulations, and next time I'll be more careful, right? Now again, these things don't directly point out at any financial engineering or at any fraud, but these are irregularities which you have to be cognizant of कि मतलब एक listed company के management से आप ये सारी चीज की उम्मीद नहीं रख सकते, because you are running a big company, you are running a strong operation, you have to have compliance team in place. What is the compliance team doing if you are not able to even meet some basic criteria which are being mandated by the regulator? तो इस तरीके की अगेन बहुत सारी सिंपल सी चीजें हमको ऑडिटर कमेंट्स में मिल जाती है. विल फर्दर गो ऑन एंड सी अ कपल ऑफ मोर कंपनीज जहाँ पे ऑडिटर कमेंट्स पढ़ के हम लोगों को ऐसी irregularities सामने आई. ओवर टू यू पार्थ.
So if you look at NBCC 2019 annual report, so the interesting thing is that the auditor has commented कि उनकी एक 100% सब्सिडी का कैश रिकंसिलेशन नहीं हुआ है, एंड वो कैश रिकंसाइल नहीं हो रहा है. सो इट्स इंटरेस्टिंग कि कंसिडरिंग एक तो गवर्नमेंट कंपनी है, इट्स प्रोबब्ली वन ऑफ अ गुड एमकैप कंपनी, राइट? एंड देन जनरली लोग होते हैं कि बड़ी कंपनी, इनमें ऑडिटर कमेंट सब ठीक होगा, जनरली इतने कंप्लायंस और ये सब इश्यूज नहीं रहते. बट कंसिडरिंग द साइज ऑफ द एनबीसीसी, उसके बाद उनकी एक सब्सिडी का कैश भी एकदम इज अ वेरी बेसिक थिंग, दे इज नॉट गेटिंग कंप्लायंट या रिकंसाइल नहीं हो रहा है. So it's a very interesting thing, you could simply by reading auditors comments you can figure out. Another thing is with the polycap, so prior to getting listed उनके RHP में I think it was a qualified opinion, right? So generally auditor का एक unqualified opinion होता है and एक qualified opinion. Unqualified is basically कि भाई accounts ठीक है, true and fair representation of everything. Unqualified is कि भाई हमको ये true and fair representation दे ही नहीं रहे, right? When this qualified, and इन्होंने reason क्या दिया है unqualified opinion का कि इंटरनल फाइनेंशियल कंट्रोल्स आर नॉट इन ऑर्डर, रेवेन्यू रिकॉग्निशन में ही उनको क्वेश्चन है कि रेवेन्यू रिकॉग्निशन उनका प्रॉपर नहीं है, साथ में जो रिसीवेबल्स रिकॉर्ड करने के वो है एंड साथ में इन्वेंट्री रिकॉर्डिंग है वो भी प्रॉपर नहीं है। एंड वी ऑल अंडरस्टैंड कि द मेजर या बेसिक लूपहोल जो मैनेजमेंट करती है इसकी थ्रू रेवेन्यू, रिसीवेबल्स, इन्वेंट्री, ये सब के थ्रू ही मेजर शेननिगन्स करने के स्कोप रहता है, राइट। एंड इट इज नॉट सरप्राइजिंग कि रिसेंटली अगेन कपल इनकम टैक्स ने जो रेड मारी एंड उसके बाद जो देयर फाइंडिंग्स which got disclosed on the PIB website, if we connect those dots with them, it looks apparent कि ये चीज ऐसे पैन आउट होने ही वाली थी, राइट। कभी ना कभी it's like, as Mr. Ramlingan Raju said, it's like riding a tiger. So read auditor comment, is what you would always recommend. Yes, Navid.
पीयर कंपैरिजन करके भी आपको कई बार इरेगुलरिटीज मिल सकती है। तो अभी रिसेंटली वी वर नॉट रिसेंटली बट अ कपल ऑफ क्वार्टर्स बैक वी वर ट्राइंग टू study a company called Capacite Infra. Again, due to the sector enjoying good tailwinds, etc., very much positivity around it has made good returns. But what we were able to see was that if you look at, so एक ईपीसी बिजनेस किस तरीके से चलता है कि आपको बिजनेसेस आ रहे हैं, आपको ऑर्डर्स मिलते हैं which forms a part of your order book. Now whenever you get an order, there are certain bank guarantees. I won't go into detail, but there are certain bank guarantees which as an EPC company you have to give to your client in order to safeguard his interest that you will deliver the project on time, you will deliver the project in right quality, etc. तो जनरली हम लोगों ने हमारे जो पीयर्स में स्टडी किया था, पीएसपी, आलू वाले वगैरह, जिसमें हम लोगों को ये चीज पता चली, एंड ऑब्वियसली वी वर फॉर्चुनेट इनफ टू बी एबल टू स्पीक टू अ कपल ऑफ इंडस्ट्री वेटरन्स हु आल्सो गिव अस द सेम इंडिकेशन कि अराउंड अगर आपकी 100 रुपए की ऑर्डर बुक है तो अराउंड आपको 18 से 20 या 15 से 20 रुपए का बैंक गारंटी देना पड़ेगा, ठीक है। नाउ व्हाट हैपेंड वाज एट दिस पॉइंट इन टाइम, the company had an outstanding order book of 10,245 crores. उसके लिए कंपनी को हमारे असेसमेंट के हिसाब से करीब करीब 2050 करोड़ की आउटस्टैंडिंग बैंक गारंटीज चाहिए होती थी। बट वो टाइम पे कंपनी के पास खाली 1175 करोड़ की बैंक लिमिट्स थी। Again, to company's advantage, right? They were able to get an approval of 150 and 300 crores were awaiting approval. तो 450 करोड़ का और इनको अप्रूवल मिल चुका था। तो even after adding the existing bank limits plus the bank limits under approval or approved, the amount was coming out to be 1,665 crores, which was much below our estimate of 2,050 crores. So now what we were able to see was that the company has taken more projects than it can maybe execute. And इसके बाद ही soon after this, the company came up with a QIP, I think, and they went for a fundraise, and then they had to, take those steps to meet this shortfall, obviously. So इस तरीके की कई बार peer analysis करने से भी आपको पता लग जाता है कि maybe the company is trying to do more than what is possible. Now this is not a shenanigan, but this is company trying to stretch itself. ये चीज भी कई बार detrimental साबित हो सकती है when let's say your businesses are in tailwind, you try to stretch yourself, somehow that tailwind takes a hit, your growth takes a hit, and that overstretching which you have done becomes a foolish decision. तो कई ये चीजें भी ध्यान रखना बहुत जरूरी होता है कि, और ये चीजें अकाउंटिंग से और उनके जो नंबर्स जो कंपनी रिपोर्ट करती है उससे पता की जा सकती है। नेक्स्ट अप इज CWIP to gross block is one ratio which proves to be very helpful, and this is a very old example but a really effective example which I think Parth will explain.
So Navid was mentioning about that S.A.P.T reject model. So one of the parameter of S.A.P.T reject model that you initially check is CWIP to gross block. So the purpose for checking that is कि twofold. अगर वो number बहुत high है and consistently high है for let's say 4 or 5 years, what essentially tells me that कि CWIP में कुछ तो amount significantly अटका पड़ा है, कोई project अटक चुका है जो आगे बढ़ नहीं रहा है, या कुछ तो हो रहा है। एंड जनरली जो भी कैपेक्स होते हैं 2 या 3 साल के अंदर अंदर CWIP से आके ग्रॉस ब्लॉक की तरफ फ्लो कर जाते हैं। बट अगर उससे ज्यादा टाइम से ग्रॉस ब्लॉक के अंदर है So it's alarming. Now, this in case of Billcare Research, back in 2013, if you look at their balance sheet, 2012 में 55 crore का CWIP has increased to 850 crore, right? And this 850 crore, interestingly, later on it was found out कि ये कोई मशीनरी या बिल्डिंग या वो नहीं है. इट वॉज प्लांट फर्नीचर, सॉरी फर्नीचर एंड फिक्चर्स जिसके अंदर डाला हुआ था. तो एसेंशियली मैनेजमेंट दिखा रहा था कि हम केपेक्स कर रहे, सब कर रहे, एंड काफी इन्वेस्टर्स जंप द बैंडवैगन की ग्रोथ होने वाले. बट इवेंचुअली इट टर्न्ड आउट कि एक कोई फर्नीचर और ये सब में दिखा रहा है 850 crore का केपेक्स, which was not really a capex but more of a way to take away the money. So generally check this CWIP कि actually CWIP फ्यूचर ग्रोथ के लिए है कि जनरली कोई दूसरे पर्पस के लिए, कि मैनेजमेंट कोई हेलीकॉप्टर ले लिया, कुछ ले लिया, वो CWIP में दिखा दिया. सो जन चेक आउट दिस चीज. CWIP सिर्फ हाई CWIP है एंड केपेक्स हो रहा है एंड ग्रोथ आएगी फ्यूचर में क्योंकि एसेट टर्न मेंटेन हो जाएगा. तो जस्ट डोंट जंप द कंपनी एंड इन्वेस्ट इन दैट कंपनी. फिगर आउट करो कहाँ जा रहा है, कैसे जा रहा है, प्रूडेंट हो रहा है कि नहीं हो रहा. सो दैट वुड बी अ बेटर अप्रोच. यस नाविद, व्हाट डू यू नाउ?
Yes, I think, and lastly, there's miscellaneous expense as a percentage of revenue. I think this is very well explained by a lot of good individuals who come onto platforms like yours. So miscellaneous expense is a best place where management can hide kharcha, because you don't have to give a footnote for miscellaneous expenses, right? It's a part of other expenses only, right? तो ये miscellaneous expense वाला जो aspect है, that is of huge importance. If miscellaneous expense to sales is coming out to be a big number, you have to be cognizant of that fact and try to do all the questioning possible and understand what is hiding there. Yeah. So I
So,
think,
Navid,
yeah.
like all the characteristics which you discussed, so what all resources you need to check these, be it annual report and the screener data? So, what additional you require that so that we also get a sense that we can also like check for these points on ourselves, and that would be helpful for the participants.
Right, right. So I think if you could see the examples which we cited, all the sources were annual reports, right? So annual report is one thing which is easily available. It's available for free. The only thing which we need is to sit and read that annual report. Similarly, some sense of numbers and some sense of regulation is always helpful, because कुछ तरीके के irregularities है ना regulator related भी होती है. तो अगर आप कोई बिजनेस में इन्वेस्टेड हो जिसकी रेगुलरिटी एस्पेक्ट के बारे में अगर आपको लोगों से थोड़ा अच्छा पता है, बीइंग एन इन्वेस्टर, या आपको एक स्ट्रॉन्ग होल्ड है, तो दैट ऑब्वियसली हेल्प्स. एंड आई थिंक you would appreciate, because a lot of guests who are domain experts keep coming onto your platform, and they might come and give out such kind of an insight which was extremely commonsensical, but they were able to uncover that insight because they had some superior understanding of the regulations or the nuances of that business. So obviously, one difficult part, I would not say difficult, but one part which requires some amount of effort will be trying to understand the nuances of the businesses we are trying to study, as well as some understanding about the regulatory part. That can be accounting also, that can be business related also. Otherwise, ये annual report और थोड़ी सी accounting की understanding, अगर ये तीन चीज है, तो I think it's not really difficult to find out irregularities. You don't have to be a forensic expert. Obviously, they have a little higher advantage, but not something which deprives us of not finding irregularities. तो हम भी irregularities simple sources से find out कर सकते हैं. As I said, we have to be resourceful enough to go and read the right sections of the data or the right sections of the literature which is presented to us by the company, and I think we are good to go.
And if I ask you about provided the bandwidth you guys have at any point in time, what's the maximum capping of companies you guys monitor? Because it's a tedious task, and doing a due diligence even on a single company might have, I mean, must take a couple of months to say. So how exactly you guys do on that front?
So I think you rightly mentioned that deep diving into a company is a tedious effort. It requires time. So I think at any particular point in time, we are a team of 8, right? So at any particular point in time, we are tracking around uh, 50 to 60 companies. If I'm not wrong, guys, you can correct me. I think 50
Correct.
to 60 companies is something which we are currently able to cover. Obviously, uh, you try to uncover all the aspects at the first go, but sometimes क्या होता है ना कि uh, to be very honest, मतलब you cannot understand 100% part of the business in your first reading, no matter how much you try. You at best you can maybe reach 65, 70%, and then as and when you track, there are multiple things which gets unfold. It can be through talking to other people, it can be through your own reading, it can be through your own thinking, it can be through other people asking some really good questions in conference call. So बहुत सारी चीजें कई बार फॉलो ऑन ट्रैकिंग में अनफोल्ड होती है, तो कई बार हमें वापस ड्राइंग बोर्ड पे जाना पड़ता है एंड वी हैव टू decide कि okay, now with this new understanding we have to uncover these a few more aspects like these, right? तो कई बार उस तरीके से भी काम होता है, but to answer your question in just one sentence, 50 से 60 कंपनीज आज हम ट्रैक कर पा रहे हैं. Obviously we are trying to establish a process in such a way that we are able to take this number higher, right? But अभी this is what the situation is.
So one thing what we do is कि in the interest of time is we have a standard procedure कि जब कंपनी डीप डाइव करने से पहले एक बार वी रन थ्रू द एसएपी चेक मॉडल इन केस कोई ग्लेयरिंग इरेगुलरिटी ऑलरेडी है, जो भी अकाउंटिंग है या मैनेजमेंट के टर्म्स में है या बिजनेस क्वालिटी के टर्म्स में, तो पहले ही अपेरेंट हो जाए. सो विद इन अ डे और टू हमको पता चल जाता है कि बिजनेस में आगे बढ़ के कुछ ज्यादा खास मिलेगा नहीं, बिकॉज बहुत सारी इरेगुलरिटीज है एंड उसका एक्सप्लेनेशन मिल नहीं रहा. देयर इज अ स्मोक एंड प्रोबब्ली देयर वुड बी फायर, बट अब मुझे इसके आगे इधर प्रोसीड नहीं करना. सो इट हेल्प्स अस टर्न आउट कंपनीज मच क्विकर कंपेयर टू कि मैंने पता चला कि हफ्ता 10 दिन या लेट्स से गिवन अ मंथ टू अ कंपनी एंड लास्ट में पता चला कि ऑडिटर के ओपिनियंस ही बहुत सारे क्वालिफाइड थे. सो इट वुड बी अ वेस्ट ऑफ रिसोर्स जहाँ पे महीना भर दे दिया एंड इट हैज नॉट बीन यूटिलाइज्ड प्रॉपर्ली फॉर अ कंपनी. सो दिस इज हाउ वी स्ट्रक्चर आवरसेल्फ. सो इट हेल्प्स अस एज वेल एज आवर क्लाइंट्स कि जल्दी जल्दी दैट क्विक डिसीजन मेकिंग हो पाती है उधर से.
So also Prince bhai, we do another very commonsensical check right at the accept reject stage, is key. There are a few keywords which we have identified, right? Those keywords can be fraud or SEBI disbarred or SEBI case against. So now what we do is we mix this keyword with the name of the companies. For example, SEBI case against Polycap. फॉर एग्जाम्पल सेबी डिसबर्ड मैन इंडस्ट्रीज. तो इस तरीके के 8-10 कीवर्ड्स हम लोगों ने आइडेंटिफाई करके बना रखे हैं. वी जस्ट कॉपी दीज कीवर्ड्स, पुट द नेम ऑफ द कंपनी, पेस्ट इन अवर गूगल सर्च बार and do a simple Google search. That also has given us some phenomenal outcomes at a lot of places. जैसा पार्थ ने बोला कि these things help us identify if there is smoke, and if there is too much smoke which we are able to see, we generally avoid that particular company in the first couple of days of our research journey itself. So इस तरीके की, again, this is a very commonsensical um, method of trying to find irregularities which one might not be able to find in the annual report or by reading the numbers. Simple कुछ keywords है, गूगल सर्च करें, गूगल सर्च में भी आपको बहुत सारा आउटकम मिल जाएगा, जिसकी वजह से कई बार आपको कोई इरेगुलरिटी पकड़ में आ जाएगी. एंड आई थिंक दिस आइडिया इज आल्सो मेंशन्ड इन इंटेलिजेंट इन्वेस्टर in some or the other section, I don't remember, but this is a very effective idea. Again, the point is कि all of us, or I think most of the investors right now, are trying to do something which is off the charts, something which is astronomically different, something which is extraordinary. But in that process, obviously striving to do that is amazing, and one should always try to push the envelope. But in that process, one should not forget to do commonsensical things. is our understanding कि common sensical चीज करने से ही आपको बहुत सारा idea मिल जाता है. Obviously, you try, you innovate, you find out new things, but don't forget to do the common sensical checks, which is mandatory for you to do as an investor.
Fair point. And the last two aspect, be it the valuation or industry tailwinds, are again very important. So you can walk us through those, and then in the end, we can have some questions if there would be.
Sure. So before moving to the valuation aspect, uh, we would take a quote from the bond champion, Howard Marks. He says an accurate estimate of intrinsic value is the essential foundation for steady, unemotional, and potentially profitable investing. So what he's trying to tell us that, and you can find out in multiple videos where he, candidly talks. He says here you cannot buy anything at any price. Everything has a price, no matter the kind of quality, because he is predominantly a junk bond investor. So he says that no matter what the quality is, everything has a price. Even a bad quality company or a badly rated bond has a price in his understanding. So that is what the quote is. Now, all of us understand the aspect that market cap is driven by only two things. One is the PE and one is the EPS. Now, before coming to the EPS part, let's try to understand what drives PE, right? I think none of us sitting here or uh, most of the, I think no investor would be able to tell you and pinpoint a few aspects कि इस aspect से ही PE driven है. P is driven by multiple aspects. It is driven by things which are not even related to the company. So that is an uncontrollable part of the market cap expansion, which we have no control over. For example, couple of days back, SEBI came up with a few observations on the small and mid cap space, right? And particularly the MSME. Next day, the market hammered those stocks, or in the next couple of days, market hammered those stocks black and blue. क्या फंडामेंटली कुछ बिजनेस में चेंज हो गया था? ओवरनाइट बिजनेसेस श्रिंक हो गए थे सेबी के कुछ बोलने से? नो, राइट? सिमिलरली, as and when the current government is forming its majority, the market is cheering the next day. Very recently, there was a win which was announced by the current government, and next day market cheered, right? Again, the question is, कुछ fundamentally change हो गया था? Business अचानक से expand हो गए थे? No, right? It was just the sentiment part of it which was playing, right? So PE is the sentimental part of the market cap expansion over which we don't have any control in our understanding. Now coming to the EPS part, where we can build a fairly good understanding, right? All of us want to benefit from the positive change in market cap, right? तो EPS के अंदर क्या होता है कि EPS generally EPS is driven by only two factors: A, your top line expansion, and B, your margin expansion. There is no third characteristic which drives EPS. Of course, there are acquisitions, but I'm not talking about acquisitions. So there are only two aspects which drive EPS. One is आप top line बढ़ा लो, या तो फिर आप margin बढ़ा लो, आपका EPS better हो जाएगा. ठीक है? अब building this kind of a thought process will give you a much clearer thought ki, okay, now I have to focus on these two aspects. A, what are the drivers which will help my company or the company which I am trying to study expand its top line? What are the drivers of the company which I am trying to study which will help my company drive its margins? कई बार हम बहुत अच्छे लोगों को ये बोलते हुए सुनते हैं कि margins are bottom down. There is room for margin expansion. So what they are trying to eventually indicate is that they are looking for EPS expansion, which will eventually lead to a market cap expansion. And हमें in our own fantasy world, what we want is we want companies which are growing its EPS, but are available at a lower PE. But that is not generally the case. What we have observed in our journey is that PE is the magnet which follows EPS. अगर कोई कंपनी टाइम टू टाइम EPS में ग्रोथ कंसिस्टेंटली देती जाती है and market is able to sense that this growth is going to sustain for whatever period of time which market is looking at it from, generally PE tends to expand. तो EPS और PE ऐसी चीज है जो मतलब PE in our understanding PE follows EPS and EPS is only driven by a couple of factors which is revenue expansion and margin expansion. So it becomes much easier for an investor to focus on EPS because there are only two moving variables. Obviously, these two variables have sub variables which are moving, but then also it becomes important to focus on EPS and not on PE so much because that is not in our control. And obviously, there are three most important words in investing: margin of safety. Anything cannot be bought at any price, even if the EPS is growing. You have to be cognizant of the fact what are you paying for that growth. So I think that is what is there on valuation key because it's a subject of art and uh, the best we could give here is the thinking part of it as to how one should think of valuations. क्योंकि कई बार क्या होता है we are so much engrossed in thinking about market इसको किस तरीके का पी दे देगा 2 years down 3 years down 5 years down अरे FY 29 का प्रोजेक्शन आ गया है इतना तो पी मार्केट इसको दे ही देगा इतने परसेंट पे ग्रोथ करने वाली कंपनी को इतना पी तो मिल ही जाता है so this kind of discussions take a large amount of our time but eventually I think we should make peace with the fact that P is driven by host of factors which nobody can predict but EPS is still somewhat understandable which is driven by a couple of factors obviously which is driven by some sub factors which one can study understand and try to gauge the trajectory of the same. I think we have I think Parth has some good case study to show.
So, what we did was we did an exercise. So, if you are standing in 2019, July 2019 में आप हो, right? आपको FY19 के March 19 के numbers आ चुके हैं. Now, if I were to sort the companies based on the price to book, कि on the left hand side आपको महंगी companies मिल रही है जो price to book में ज़्यादा है. राइट हैंड साइड पे जो वैल्यू स्टॉक साइड पे वहां पे प्राइस टू बुक से कम है वो कंपनी एंड अगर उन्हीं सेट ऑफ कंपनीज का मैं लास्ट 5 साल से मतलब 2019 से 5 साल पहले की ग्रोथ देखूं तो जनरली जो महंगी कंपनीज थी उनकी ग्रोथ भी बेटर रही है कंपेयर टू जो कंपनी सस्ती थी राइट व्हाट दिस एसेंशियली टेल्स मी इज कि मार्केट इज चेजिंग ग्रोथ अगर तुमने ग्रोथ दिया तो तुमको वैल्यूएशन मल्टीपल ज्यादा मिलता है राइट नाउ द थिंग इज व्हाट पीपल डू इज पीपल गो एंड स्टिक जहाँ पे ग्रोथ top 2 3 4 decile is where people generally go and invest because उनको historically growth दिखा है and market tends to extrapolate that growth into the far into the future कि भाई ये growth जो पिछले 25% का 20% का growth है ये आगे भी आएगा and वो valuation justified है and market invested रहता है right now what we did was कि अगर 2019 में ऐसा केस है जो कंपनीज आज वैल्यू की कैटेगरी में आ रही है बॉटम 7 बॉटम 9 या बॉटम 10 डिसाइल पे आ रही है क्या उनकी ग्रोथ 7 8 9 10% पे थी कि उनकी ग्रोथ इंप्रूव हुई राइट सो इफ यू टेक टू द नेक्स्ट स्लाइड वही सेट पैक हाँ वही सेट ऑफ कंपनीज जिसका ईपीएस के का 7.5% था अगले नेक्स्ट 4 साल में फ्रॉम 19 to 23 वही स्टॉक्स का ईपीएस ग्रोथ काफी एक्स्ट्रा 13.5% आया वर्सेस जो कंपनी 21% की ग्रोथ कर रही थी एंड उनको अच्छा मल्टीपल मिला हुआ था उनकी ग्रोथ 10% पे आ गई राइट सो दिस इज अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग इनसाइट कि जस्ट डोंट चेज द ग्रोथ एंड लुक एट द वैल्यू काफी बार मार्केट अपॉर्चुनिटीज कैसी देता है कि कोई टेम्पररी हेडविंड्स आए एंड उसके वजह से बिजनेस परफॉर्म नहीं कर रहे अब मार्केट को लगता है दिस इज कंसिस्टेंटली गोइंग टू बी द केस एंड उसको डी रेट कर देता है एंड this is when you get a very good opportunity. One case जहाँ पे PI Industries, when we actually started our career and we invested in this business. So if you look at the growth trajectory, 2012 से 15 में 20-20% की growth है, phenomenal growth. But 16, 17, 18, it was a period of rough patch जहाँ पे उनकी growth काफी tapered down हो गई थी, right? And what market did was market derated the stock like anything. Like if you look at this is the PE chart of the stock, and you can clearly see the derating that has happened for the stock. And post this so what we did was we essentially invested at this point कि this is just a temporary phase and not a permanent phase for the company and which turned out turned out to be true if you look at the growth from 2019 to 23 onwards again they are back to their own growth trajectory so market throws this kind of opportunities and market ignores कि कोई भी परफॉर्म 1-2 साल नहीं करता मार्केट उसको एक्स्ट्रापोलेट करके साइड कर देता है but that is when the opportunity lies. So, this is something, we regularly do at Bastion. and we try to spot on, find this kind of opportunity. Another, Navid, can you take to the subsequent slides? So if you look at the example of DCB Bank, now this company again is going through such phase right now जहाँ पे historically उसने हर 3-4 साल में अपनी लोन बुक डबल की है, राइट? तो कंपनी है शोन ग्रोथ. कंपनी ने अपना एसेट क्वालिटी पोस्ट 2012 काफी अच्छे से मेंटेन भी करके रखा है, राइट? एंड अ कंपनी जो विच हैज अ कैपेबिलिटी टू डबल द लोन बुक, मतलब 18-20% से ग्रो कर सकती है, at the same time maintain their asset quality, is today trading at a price to book of a PSU. In case I've missed anything, Sanjay, please highlight.
No, so you have taken a fair amount of things, but to highlight few things, so the trajectory of DCB Bank, since FY9 to FY18, over that period, they have consistently generated every 3 to 4 years, they have doubled the loan book size. And over that same period, they have maintained the asset quality or at par with the good banks, I would say, at par with the good banks. The same is the case with, right now, in during the times of COVID, they have taken a hit and they have stepped back because during the time, the asset quality or the AUM of the bank has been more towards SME lending, MSME and SME lending, and that is forms a unregulated, unrealized market for the banks. So that taken a hit during the times of COVID, and for that the revival has taken a slightly higher time because that's the nature of the market as such. So for that they have stopped giving the loans. They have strategically taken a decision that will focus on to finding out the they will focus on maintaining the current AUM, and then they will start focusing on growing their AUM further. The interesting part is in the AUM, in the total AUM, 85% of the loan book is secured by the nature. So that's how when we try to study the things, you get the confidence that why this company can again turn around, or why this company can again generate that kind of growth or the asset quality, what we say for that matter. So in FY22, again, the management has guided that in 3 to 4 years, or they will double the loan book. So from FY22 to 23, if we say they are growing at 18-20%, they are in 9 months also, they are growing at 18-20%. So the growth is visible. The asset qualities or the cost to income ratios will follow over a period of time because of the branch expansion, because of the employee expansion. The cost to income has taken a hit, and and therefore the profitability has taken a hit. So we feel that as the AUM grow, as things are normalized going forward, cost to income ratio, or management has also guided from 64% cost to income ratio to fall down to 55% over a 2 to 3 year periods. And the asset qualities will fall down their past trajectory, which is a GNPA ratio below 2%, which is the current at 3.2%. So that all will follow in a given 2 to 3 year time frame. But market is somehow market is not happy or ignoring the stocks maybe, and therefore the the valuation is in our favor. So if at all things will they are able to do us a previous trajectory as well, so the price to book will, in our opinion, I'm not saying that it will go again 1.6 or 2 ka price to book, but from 4.8, if it is go to 1.2 1.3 as well, and if at all the earning, because we know that the earning expansion will kick in place, as Navid has rightly put out that PB or price to book, is it not not in our hands. What in our hand is the earning growth drivers for the company. And from studying the company in depth, we find out that there is a probability of earning expansion in 2 to 3 years. So price, and then again, price will PE will follow over a period of time. So that's how we find out the businesses, and we like the businesses. We are right now invested, not a buy or sell recommendation on that side, but we are positive about that company, and we are, as Parth has rightly put out, that we try to find out the companies or the business which are hammered by the market, because that gives a margin of safety in our process. So yeah, over to you guys.
So I think this is where we would end our valuations aspect, Prince bhai. Happy to take questions. I hope we were able to give you a perspective as to how we theoretically think about valuations, and as well as how we put the same into action.
Yeah, Navid. So Navid, when it comes to valuation, we all know like across companies or maybe different sectors have different criterias for valuation. So how it goes, like basically if some good company which is again following all the checkpoints which we have discussed so far, but the valuation thing is somewhat not in the value category, or to say a very fair valuation, and if it is in say high valuation category at this point in time. So how you like deal with those situations? So would that remain in the watch list, and as and when, as you rightly pointed out, there are certain periods, lull period during the course of any companies, be it any external or internal things which has changed those scenarios. So basis that, like how it goes, and on the top of that, I mean, also love to hear from you guys what strategy you guys follow when it comes to selling a position, again in view of other parameters as well, and as far as valuation is concerned.
I think as far as valuation is concerned, there are a lot of companies which we like but are not available at the valuations which you might want to buy. Obviously, you rightly said that it remains a part of our watch list. Sometimes what happens is we also get lucky, right? We also get lucky in entering into a business at a lucrative price, and then eventually, over a period of time, as we go on tracking that company, we get to understand that maybe this business is stronger than I was anticipating, and the management is delivering much better than I expected. And obviously, market takes the stock from very low levels to high levels. That includes expansion of EPS, that includes expansion of PE as well. So multiple times what happens is you get caught up into these kind of opportunities which turn out to be much better value creators than you expected in the first place. So these kind of opportunities, we don't become extremely jittery to sell these kind of positions. We are happy to hold. Obviously, now there you one has to differentiate between slightly higher valuations versus obnoxiously high valuations. Now, this is very subjective, and I'm afraid I won't be able to give you quantitative aspects of this. But obviously, whenever we feel the valuations are obnoxious, we have stepped aside, and there are multiple companies, case in point being again, not recommendation or anything, IEX. When IEX was at its best period, we got it based on our understanding sense we maybe this is going too ahead of its time, and again we were able to exit that particular stock. But I mean, this is just an example to make you understand that we get out when we feel the valuations are obnoxious. Obviously, we are also not always right. We also sometimes get caught up in the wrong side of wrong side, and we also have to take a hit at a lot of times. But what you said is true, that if something does not fit our valuation criteria, even though we like the business, we generally tend to wait, follow it, continue to keep it under track, and keep it under our watch list.
To the
Anything?
next,
Yeah.
the industry tailwinds, and then we like have few questions and close for the day.
Sure.
Sure, sure, sure. So this is the last part of our SMART framework, where We want to participate in businesses who are enjoying the industry tailwinds. Now, when you think about industry tailwinds, the first level of thought process is, points out to these three aspects we understand. First is the size of the opportunity. यार opportunity कितना बड़ा है? Second is कि opportunity तो ठीक है बड़ा है, but how fast is this pie growing? And lastly, how many players are there at the table to eat a portion of this pie, right? तो फर्स्ट लेवल थिंकिंग पे हम हमेशा इसी चीज को मद्देनजर रखते हुए या इसी चीज को ध्यान में रख के इंडस्ट्री टेलविंड्स को सोचते हैं. बट इफ यू जस्ट गो वन स्टेप डीपर and try to apply the second level of thought, you would understand that there are a few aspects which result in the size of opportunity changing. There are a few aspects which result into the growth of the industry changing uh, uh, substantially. And obviously there are a number of players which we understand कि वो जब कम ज्यादा होते हैं तो there are repercussions to the existing players as well as new players. तो second level पे आके जब हम सोचते हैं तो first aspect which we are able to see is the change in regulations. जब regulation में एक बड़ा change आता है तो size of opportunity एकदम से बदल जाती है. Similarly उस रेगुलेशन की वजह से कई बार ग्रोथ ऑफ द इंडस्ट्री भी एकदम से बदल जाती है. तो यहाँ पे वी वुड लाइक टू साइट अ कपल ऑफ एग्जांपल्स. वन इज टाटा मोटर्स एंड सेकंडली सुजलॉन एनर्जी, एंड संजय एंड पार्थ विल टेक यू थ्रू दीज एग्जांपल्स. व्हाट डू यू गाइस?
In case of Sharda Motors, so it is into the business of exhaust. तो आज जो गाड़ियों में नीचे एग्जॉस्ट सिस्टम जो लगता है वो उसमें ऑलमोस्ट 100 में से 30 गाड़ियों में शारदा मोटर्स का हाथ है उसके पीछे. ठीक है. नाउ मेजर चेंज इन रेगुलेशन इज कि आज जितने भी ट्रैक्टर्स है ना, ट्रैक्टर्स के ऊपर वो पोल्यूशन नॉर्म्स नहीं लगता, जहाँ पे वो लोग जनरली मफलर्स यूज करते हैं आज की तारीख में. ओनली ट्रैक्टर्स अबाउट 50 हॉर्स पावर जहाँ पे वो उनको प्रॉपर एग्जॉस्ट सिस्टम लगाना पड़ता है. बट वो 50 हॉर्स पावर के ऊपर के जो ट्रैक्टर्स है वो लिमिटेड है. आई थिंक लेस देन 10% ऑफ द वॉल्यूम रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं. तो मेजरली 50 हॉर्स पावर के नीचे है. बट गवर्नमेंट हैज कम आउट विद रेगुलेशन एंड इम्प्लीमेंट करना बचा है. जब भी इम्प्लीमेंट होगा तो ऑल ट्रैक्टर्स जितने भी है 50 हॉर्स पावर के ऊपर या नीचे सबको एग्जॉस्ट सिस्टम की जरूरत पड़ेगी, मफलर्स हटा दिए जाएंगे. एंड ऑलरेडी शारदा मोटर्स ने अपने जितने भी ट्रैक्टर्स के मैन्युफैक्चरर्स ओईएम्स है उनके साथ टाइप कर लिया है कि जब भी वो रेगुलेशन इम्प्लीमेंट होगा तो यू विल परचेज, आई वुड बी द प्रिफर्ड वेंडर करके, राइट. सो दिस एड्रेसेबल मार्केट जस्ट विथ वन चेंज इन रेगुलेशन, एड्रेसेबल मार्केट सिग्निफिकेंटली कंपनी के लिए चेंज हो जाएगा. ट्रक का जितना बड़ा मार्केट है तो ट्रक में भी बेसिकली ये एग्जॉस्ट सिस्टम लगते हैं. जितना बड़ा ट्रक का मार्केट है मैनेजमेंट के एस्टिमेट के हिसाब से उससे बड़ा मार्केट तुम्हारा ट्रैक्टर का हो जाएगा जस्ट विथ दिस वन स्ट्रोक ऑफ पेन, राइट. सो यू नीड टू बी कॉग्निजेंट कि भाई कहाँ का रेगुलेशन चेंज हो रहे हैं. एंड आई थिंक ये बहुत बड़ा एड्रेसेबल मार्केट शारदा मोटर्स के लिए ओपन अप हो जाएगा. वन इज अगेन ऑन द विंड साइड जहाँ पे आई थिंक संजय विल टेक इट.
Yeah, so in the wind industry, in the past, as we all know, Suzlon, Inox wind story over the period of time. And in the case of Suzlon as well, so before 2017, everything was all okay with the wind and as a sector as a whole. They are doing good. So on that basis, on the demand on that side, company has taken a debt in their books. So in 2017, from feed-in tariff, the regulation has been changed to reverse auction. And what is reverse auction? If I tell you, so reverse auction में क्या होता है ना? कोई भी when we bid into a particular project, so the bidding amount has been shown to other bidders. And if the other bidders want to bid lower than the same amount, then the competition or then the bid has been so that taken over the margins, and that itself has taken the industry in a doldrums. So they from 2017 to 22 the industry has faced a lot of problem because of reverse auction. Now again, because of the regulation change 2022, as the government has changed the regulation and again they have come to a close bidding. And now what the close bidding is, up envelope mein you try bid the same amount according to your necessity or the project which is there, you bid, and that envelopes are the lowest bidder will win the bid. So there is no, again, आप आपने जो bid किया है वो amount से ज्यादा other players or lesser amount से ज्यादा other players can bid. So that again, after a closed bidding, that again after 2022, the regulations has been in the favor for the wind industry. And as we all know, the prices of Suzlon or Inox wind industry, the industry perspective, they have done a very good in the last couple of years. Again, in the recent times, we get a sense that government is trying to some, again they are taking up some reverse auction again. That is for a smaller amount, 4 to 5% of the project, but the sentiment has again started hitting into the industry or the sector as a whole. So the prices has been dropped from the highs of the companies to 20-25% because of the regulation, and that is not because of the market has been hitting, that is before the market has been hitting the market. So we have to be very cognizant about the industry. Sometimes it is benefit like a lot to the industry, sometimes the because of that, as we all know, the government is or will do according to the benefit of for them, and or the industry as a whole. So that's how, once reverse auction to close begin to again reverse auction again, this is again into the 4 to 5% of the market, but the sentiment has been there that what if government again try and so that it put again get back the reverse auction as a whole. So the industry sentiment get again started hitting a lot over a period of time. So we have to be cognizant and check out the regulations, and that gives a strong tailwind or the headwind depending on the change in the industry size or change in the industry according to the market or according to the government. Yeah, over to you guys.
Yes, I think first aspect was the regulation aspect, where we saw a couple of examples. One, if regulations change in a certain way, it can change the opportunity size of one company. And similarly, in the other example, if regulations, because of regulation changing in a certain way, it expanded the size, made the positive sentiments positive. But if it again falls back to the older regime, it might play out negatively. Second thing which we have seen is the changing customer preferences, right? So here there is one generic example which all of us have seen somewhere or the other in the data, that the changing preference of consumers towards a particular type of vehicle. I think Parth will explain this.
So I think SUV volume, SUV preference has changed, right? And when you ignore consumer preference, your market share get significantly hampered. So for example, if you remember, Maruti Suzuki was slow to capture this increasing trend, जहाँ पे सब लोग SUV vehicles launch कर रहे हैं, and Maruti was stick to their hatchback cars, right? Which significantly impacted their market share, जो और 50% के ऊपर था, जो आज 40% के आसपास I think आ चुका है, 35-40% के आसपास, right? So this is what generally happens. You need to be cognizant कि consumer preferences कहाँ change हो रहे हैं, and the company that you have invested is stepping into that. Another example that we have not captured here is of Safari and VIP industries, जहाँ पे we know that India is a value price conscious and value conscious market, and VIP was more of a premium kind of a product. Now what Safari did was it gave it a price to the price conscious consumer, it gave them a brand. At the same time, एक affordable price point पे, and it gained market share from VIP industries like anything, right? In the last from 2013 to 23, we know, and VIP industries were very slow to cater to that customer base of price conscious user base basically. So I think yes, so ignoring consumer preferences can be a deadly task for a company. You need to, while investing in a company, you need to be aware that the company that you're investing is cognizant of this and is in investing or churning out products which are trend in the market basically. Yes, Navid.
So customer preferences के बाद technological advancement also impacts growth in that industry as well as the size of opportunity. मतलब Again, coming back to the automobile example, if you look around yourself right now versus, let's say, a couple of years back, you could not find couple of years back you could not find EV electronic two-wheelers or Tata EV vehicles moving around in such large quantities. But if you see today, the amount of Olas that are visible on the streets, at the same time the amount of Tata EV or MG, because these guys have been the first movers, it's phenomenally high. One couldn't have expected a couple of years back कि इस तरीके का चेंज आ जाएगा. तो टेक्नोलॉजी का एडवांसमेंट होने की वजह से भी कई बार एक्सपेक्टेशन से अलग या एक्सपेक्टेशन से फास्ट size of opportunity and growth in the industry changes. Similarly, that the same case we saw with Tesla in the US. Tesla was nowhere, Tesla was struggling, and then because of their technological advancement, making the battery more powerful, making the vehicle more entertaining, making the vehicle more cheap because of employing good technologies, coming up with the 2 3 models, the whole trajectory of the company has changed. And currently, if I'm not wrong, Tesla has become the most valuable automaker across the globe, despite not being the largest by volumes. तो कई बार टेक्नोलॉजिकल चेंज की वजह से भी इंडस्ट्री अपॉर्चुनिटी में ड्रास्टिक चेंज आ जाता है, ग्रोथ के अंदर ड्रास्टिक चेंज आ जाता है. एंड ऑब्वियसली मार्केट इज अ डिस्काउंटिंग मशीन, राइट? मार्केट ऑपरेट्स लुकिंग अहेड, इट लुक्स इन द विंडशील्ड एंड ऑपरेट्स. तो उस डिस्काउंटिंग मैकेनिज्म की वजह से मार्केट कई बार बहुत सारी फ्यूचर ग्रोथ को अभी लेकर के आ जाता है. तो दैट इज समथिंग विच अगेन becomes a part of valuation, but that is something one has to be very much aware of. But of course, technological advancement is something which definitely has a huge bearing on how the opportunity size shapes up as well as the growth of the industry shapes up. Next up is, there are a few mega trends, a few secular trends which are in place. अगर आपके पास कोई कंपनी है which fits really nicely into these mega trends, secular trends, you have latched on to a winner. ठीक है, तो ये इस तरीके की ट्रेंड में जो कंपनीज बैठती है उनकी साइज ऑफ अपॉर्चुनिटी भी बड़ी है, और अपॉर्चुनिटी itself is growing faster and faster. And as you would rightly appreciate, few players, at least in the Indian context, have created such a nice business around कि एक नए प्लेयर की एंट्री होना भी बहुत मुश्किल है. So if you have something which fits into that mega trend story, you have to always remember two things: your opportunity size is large and is growing, and then the thing which you have to identify is जो प्लेयर आप जिस प्लेयर के साथ अभी बैठे हैं, क्या वो प्लेयर स्टैंड आउट प्लेयर है, क्या वो प्लेयर अपने कंपटीशन को दूर रख पाएगा, क्या वो प्लेयर कंपटीशन आने के बाद भी अपना मार्केट शेयर मेंटेन कर पाएगा और अपनी ग्रोथ को कंसिस्टेंट रख पाएगा या नहीं. इफ all the three check boxes are intact, you don't have to worry for long periods of time, and you will be able to compound your wealth handsomely in these kind of opportunities. Fifth one is a large player shutting shop somewhere. It can be globally, it can be in India. ये जनरली है ना कमोडिटी कंपनीज के अंदर देखा जाता है. तो फॉर एग्जांपल shrimp industry में Ecuador is globally a strong player, right? It is even bigger than India. But recently what happened was Ecuador के अंदर so Ecuador as a region is prone to a lot of unrest. वहाँ पे social unrest बहुत है. वहाँ पे there is a lot of mafia culture, etc., which does not keep the economy healthy at times. तो कई बार जब वहाँ पर इस तरीके की social unrest create होती है, that automatically creates opportunities for Indian markets. मतलब इस तरीके की चीजें हमेशा हमें कमोडिटी कंपनीज या कमोडिटी बिजनेसेस में देखने मिलती है, जहाँ पर एक लार्ज प्लेयर का काम बंद कर देना पूरी दुनिया में कहीं पे भी, या एक लार्ज प्लेयर का इंडस्ट्री के अंदर एंट्री कर देना कहीं पे भी, कैन डिसाइड और कैन चेंज फॉर्च्यून्स फॉर कंपनीज अक्रॉस द ग्लोब एज वेल. So these are, in our understanding, 5 areas Obviously, there can be many, but these are the most important five areas in our understanding, which A changes the size of the opportunity or decides the size of the opportunity, and also the rate of the growth which the industry is expected to witness. Similarly, number of players also, and the changing number of players also becomes really important to judge. Uh, sort of कई बार you can judge the barrier of entry just by understanding कि नया player last कब आया था. Best example is the insurance space, the RTA space, the exchange space. You will not be able to remember the year in which last competitor or the last player came, because those things took place 10 years 15 years back. 10 15 20 साल से इन इंडस्ट्रीज के अंदर कोई नई एंट्री नहीं हो पाई है, because of the network effects these guys enjoy. Or in insurance, in the case of insurance, it's a business of law of large numbers, right? You have to bleed for number of years before you become profitable, and that is why the giants of the industry have been able to, keep their foot in their industry, and not any player who is venture backed or any new startup can get into. I'm talking about life insurance here. Any new player will not be easily able to enter the life insurance space. तो इस तरीके का जजमेंट कई बार आपको ये देखने से भी आ जाता है कि लास्ट प्लेयर इस इंडस्ट्री में कब एंटर हुआ था. अगर ये बहुत सालों पहले ये एंट्री हुई है या बहुत सालों से कोई नई एंट्री नहीं हुई है, दैट डेफिनेटली इंडिकेट्स कि इस बिजनेस में कुछ बैरियर्स टू एंट्री है. सो दैट्स वन पार्ट ऑफ इट कि नंबर ऑफ प्लेयर्स किस तरीके से चेंज हुए ओवर द इयर्स. सेकंड इज कंसोलिडेशन. आई थिंक पार्थ कैन टेक दिस.
So, as you know, we have seen कि म्यूचुअल फंड AMCs जितने अभी रैंप अप हो रहे हैं, राइट? So now, if you look at the mutual fund industry, size of the opportunity is huge. The growth is phenomenal. The industry is almost growing at 15-20%. But the problem is the number of players are also increasing at that rapid pace, right? To capture that kind of growth and opportunity. Now, resultingly, existing players are not able to hold their market share, right? Because new players are there and they are strong player contenders. So ultimately, when you want to bet, तो किस पे bet करोगे? अगर आप बोलोगे कि मैं HDFC, Nippon या आदित्य बिरला पे bet करूंगा, but those guys are losing market share, right? So the industry which is growing at 15-20% and they lose market share, the resultantly growth would fall down to 10-15%, right? For them. And market generally does not, someone losing market share, sentiments बिगड़ जाते हैं. So it becomes very difficult to capture just because size बढ़ी है, growth बढ़ा है, पर नए players आ रहे हैं, तो तुम पैसा कमाना उस industry से difficult हो जाता है. Similar thing is happening with the paint industry, जहाँ पे again size is good, growth is good, and as we have seen the real estate boom recently, now वो सब industry या वो सब घर को painting की जरूरत पड़ेगी, which Asian likes of Asian paints and all are going to capture. But again the Grasim ने almost 10,000 crore का capex announce करके almost बर्जर पेंट्स के इक्विवेलेंट वॉल्यूम की मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कैपेसिटी डाल के they have just challenged the industry again. So in this kind of again industry difficult to capture कि कहाँ पे पैसा बन सकता है, and probably price competition आ जाता है, डीलर के साथ competition आ जाता है, and very difficult. I think competitive intensity. Navid, you can take over.
I think it's the extension of the previous point. Matlab, if the industry is consolidating, it's a good opportunity for existing players. Similarly, if the industry is not consolidating, the more and more players are, entering into this space. Similarly, kitchen appliances space. I think Paint and AMC Parth already gave an example. Similar example is the kitchen appliances space, where a couple of large players are, marking an entry. Havells has recently decided to make an entry into the faster growing kitchen appliances space. Similarly, V-Guard with the acquisition of, I think, Sunflame is also trying to make a mark into this industry. तो बस मतलब बात यही है कि keeping an eye on the number of players becomes really important, and this can be done by जो मैंने पहले बताया कि लास्ट प्लेयर कब एंटर हुआ था ये पता कर लो, तो आपको पता चल सकता है कि किस तरीके से क्यों इतने ही प्लेयर्स हैं या क्यों प्लेयर्स बढ़ने वाले हैं, एक्सेट्रा. एंड सिमिलरली यू ऑल्सो गेट अ सेंस ऑफ, again, listening to a lot of people, talking to people, trying to understand the business dynamics. By your own judgment, you get a sense कि यार इंडस्ट्री कंसोलिडेट नहीं हो रही है, कॉम्पिटिटिव इंटेंसिटी बढ़ रही है, or vice versa, the industry consolidate हो रही है, maybe the existing players are going to benefit. So I think this is all about tailwinds. So there are a few aspects which are around regulation, customer preferences, technology, mega trend, a large player shutting and opening shop, uh, as well as trying to understand the barriers of entry and whether the industry is consolidating or not, can give you a good sense of tailwinds to the business. So I think with this, Prince Bhai, we are done explaining our smart framework. Now, we will just take 5-7 minutes of yours and try to explain how we put smart framework into action by giving you an example of couple of companies. I think Parth will take over and explain more the examples here. So firstly, we will cover PV FinTech. Yes,
So,
Parth.
yeah. So if you were to, look at PV FinTech, now, as we covered in the individual examples as well, that the company has a strong brand recall, right? It is a market leader on the online insurance part, where almost close to 90% market share it has. It has an excellent repeat customer rate, where, the customer जो day one पे आके purchase करता है, he ends up buying insurance policy या paying insurance premium worth 4 to 5x. जो डे वन पे अगर 100 रुपए का इंश्योरेंस प्रीमियम मैंने खरीदा, तो अगले 5 साल में मोटा मोटी मैं 5x to 500 से 600 रुपए का इंश्योरेंस प्रीमियम में खर्च कर चुका हूँ पॉलिसी बाजार के थ्रू, राइट? So that it is a kind of repeat customer it has, and it keeps adding new products. So like I said, वो अब क्या बोलते हैं, उसने पहले स्टार्टिंग से जनरल हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस से चालू किया, मोटर ऐड किया, travel insurance and all those things. He keeps adding new product just to keep the customer hooked, कि भाई to make it one stop insurance product, कि भाई insurance कोई भी requirement है मेरे पास है. Basically अब it has come to at that point, right? The
Right.
only
Now it is
problem,
going to sell, sorry to interrupt, now it is also going to sell reinsurance.
right,
That's a very recent example of a new product addition.
right. So it's more on the B2B side, but yes, it's going to add that as well. Now, the problem with PB FinTech is that it is subpar RC, basically loss-making entity, right? And which is, market uh, ignoring the stock or not ascribing the kind of valuation that it deserves. And the counter to this thing is when you look at the business model, the kind of repeat business it's generating, it's showing consistent improvement in the margin solely because of now you just imagine a business, forget PV FinTech. Imagine you own a business जहाँ पे day one पे you go and sell the health insurance, ठीक है? 100 रुपए का हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस बिका, उसमें 10 रुपए का तुमको कमीशन, इंश्योरेंस कमीशन मिल गया, राइट? बट प्रॉब्लम इज जब तुमने वो 100 रुपए का बेचा, 10 रुपए का तुम्हारा वो कस्टमर को ढूंढ के ला के उसको कन्विंस करने का ही खर्चा, उसमें 10 रुपए लग गया. सो ऑन डे वन यू डिड नॉट मेक एनी मनी, ठीक है? नाउ द इंटरेस्टिंग पार्ट इज नेक्स्ट ईयर वो रिन्यूअल के लिए आएगा. द थिंग अबाउट हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस इज कि नेक्स्ट ईयर तुमको 5% कमीशन नहीं मिलेगा 100 रुपए के इंश्योरेंस पे, आपको वापस 10% ही मिलता. इट इज कंसिडर्ड एज रिन्यूअल, इज कंसिडर्ड एज गुड एज फ्रेश इंश्योरेंस, ठीक है? तो नेक्स्ट ईयर वापस आपको 10 रुपए मिलेगा, बट इस टाइम पे तुम्हारा कोई खर्चा नहीं लगा, राइट? तुम प्रोबेबली एक कॉल करने लगा, सर आपका रिन्यूअल आ गया, आप कर लो, या जो भी है थोड़ा टू एंड फ्रो होगा उसमें जो तुम्हारी बैंडविड्थ का ही टाइम गया, दैट्स ऑल, दैट्स द एक्सपेंस देयर इज, राइट? सो नेक्स्ट ईयर ऑनवर्ड से सब्सिक्वेंटली जब तक कि उसको हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस की जरूरत पड़ती जाएगी, वो रिन्यूअल करता जाएगा, एंड आपको 10-10 रुपए का कमीशन ट्रेल बेसिस पे लाइफ टाइम के लिए आता जाएगा. इन हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस में एक और इंटरेस्टिंग चीज है, 100 रुपए का प्रीमियम जो आज भरा, वो अगले दिन, अगले साल रिन्यूअल के टाइम पे 100 रुपए का नहीं रहता, बिकॉज आपकी लाइफ, यू आर एजिंग एंड यू आर 80 ईयर्स, जो भी वो एज है उसके पास आते जा रहे हो, तो वो 100 रुपए का प्रीमियम 101, 102, 103 रुपए हो जाता है. तो तुम्हारा कमीशन अमाउंट भी उस हिसाब से प्रोपोर्शनेटली बढ़ता जाता है, राइट? Why would you not like to own such a business is the only question I always ask myself. And so Policy Bazaar is such, that kind of business, right? Now, in terms of management is able to walk the talk. जहाँ पे जहाँ guidance या whatever they have given in the past, they are able to show that kind of execution. Like, just to give you a recent example, in the Q2 con call, they clearly mentioned that we will report PAT positive in Q3. And when it actually happened, so Q3 they actually reported the PAT positive return, PAT positive quarter, sorry. In terms of capital allocation, they're very prudent. So, they have created a basically sub-agent network, which is called POSP network. And today they have more than 1 lakh PSP agents under their brand. Now, the interesting thing is management said that had we were to acquire this business, we were to shell out almost 1,000 to 1,500 crores to just to acquire some company जिसने ऑलरेडी एक यूएसपी नेटवर्क एस्टेब्लिश करके बैठा है, ठीक है, उसके सामने हमने 100-200 करोड़ के अंदर वो बिल्ड कर दिया. तो मैनेजमेंट इज सच प्रूडेंट कि हम खुद से बिल्ड कर लेंगे अगर हमको बाय कोई चीज एक्वायर करने में महंगा लग रहा है. एंड दे मेड दिस डिसीजन व्हेन दे वर सिटिंग ऑन अ कैश ऑफ 5,000 करोड़, क्योंकि आईपीओ ये सब से उनके पास अच्छा खासा कैश आया था, राइट. यू नो व्हेन इट्स वेरी इजी, जब तुम्हारे पास बहुत सारा कैश पड़ा है, यू मेक अ मिस जजमेंट, चलना इतना कैश पड़ा है अपन खर्च कर देते हैं और कहाँ पे यूज करेंगे करके, you generally make that acquisition. But management, despite having that amount of cash, they made a prudent decision कि भाई नहीं, अपन वो नहीं करेंगे, अपन धीमे धीमे अब स्लोली ग्रेजुअली टाइम लगेगा चलेगा, लेकिन हमारा बिजनेस बिल्ड करेंगे. लकी फॉर देम दे मैनेज टू बिकम वन ऑफ द लार्जेस्ट पीएसपी नेटवर्क इन लेस देन अ ईयर. तो आज की तारीख में 1 लाख के ऊपर पीएसपी नेटवर्क के एजेंट्स किसी के पास नहीं है, राइट. अनदर prudent thing Mr. Yashish Dayya, who is the promoter, co-founder, has done is कि because they got such a huge ESOPs at the time of IPO, he said कि अब मुझे सैलरी देने की जरूरत नहीं, जितना वैल्यू एडिशन मेरे को करना था उस हिसाब से मेरे को ESOP मिल चुके हैं, राइट. So it shows a good judgment on the part of the management, right. Now, in terms of accounting, there are a number of checks that we go through, that S.A.P. check model and everything. As such, no, irregularity was found, so there's nothing to add here, and which is a good thing. कि मेरे पास I have nothing to add here. In terms of reasonable valuation, so again, since I cannot measure this company in terms of price to earnings because it's loss making, but when I look at the price to sales basis also, now again, difficult to ascribe any valuation to this business, but what I did was I compared all the new age listed businesses price to sales versus that of PV fintech, and what I found was whenever a profitable fintech company had much higher valuation multiple of 18 to 20 price to sales compared to a loss making a new age business. And I believe that once PV fintech shows that caliber ki hum profitably, consistently and sustainably profitable ho pa rahe, it would have that re-rating that all the other fintech companies have seen. In terms of industry tailwind, I don't think I need to mention much कि insurance penetration इतना कम है, and interestingly insurance penetration के अंदर ही online insurance penetration और कम है, right. तो इंडस्ट्री सिर्फ इंश्योरेंस इंडस्ट्री ग्रो होगी तो भी वो 15-18% से ग्रो पाएगा, साथ में ऑनलाइन इंश्योरेंस का पेनिट्रेशन इतना कम है कि वो इंडस्ट्री को 30-40% से ग्रो हो रही है, राइट. तो आई थिंक all the boxes are clicking for the company other than the fact कि वो loss making है, right. And that was the thing that we worked on in figure. We got comfort कि भाई ये risk ऐसा है, I'm willing to take, and मेरे को पता है मैनेजमेंट के एग्जीक्यूशन ट्रैक रिकॉर्ड के हिसाब से they would soon turn out to be profitable at the operating level, not even PAT level. And so ये risk मैंने लेके we are invested in this business. Again, no recommendation, but yes. Yeah. So another business that we looked at was Sharda Motors. Now, in terms of strong business, it has a very good market share of close to 30%. Excellent ROC, more than 100% of ROC that this business is able to generate. Interestingly, being an OEM, being a auto ancillary, OEMs generally try to squeeze you, जहाँ पे तुम्हारे payment terms unfavorable रहते हैं. But interestingly, Sharda Motors operates on a negative working capital, right, which has resulted in this kind of ROC for the business. But this having said that, at the same time, क्योंकि कंपनी एग्जॉस्ट बिजनेस में है, सो आजकल नए नए पावर ट्रेन आते जा रहे हैं, लोग हाइड्रोजन ट्राई कर रहे हैं, ईवी ट्राई कर रहे हैं, एन नंबर ऑफ नए नए पावर ट्रेन आते हैं. एग्जॉस्ट बिजनेस इज नॉट एप्लीकेबल फॉर ऑल दोस पावर ट्रेन्स, राइट. तो उनका बेसिक मेन प्रोडक्ट पोर्टफोलियो इज नॉट पावर ट्रेन एग्नोस्टिक. कल ईवी आ गया, लेट्स से ड्यू टू सम इंडस्ट्री डिस्ट्रप्शन की ईवी और अफोर्डेबल होगी. प्रोबेबली टाटा नेक्सॉन की जो बैटरी 6 लाख रुपए की पड़ती है, 6-7 लाख रुपए की, वो 60-70 हजार पे आ गई, 1-2 लाख रुपए पे आ गई, right. So the pace of adoption of EV would be much faster, right. या कोई नई टेक्नोलॉजी आ गया, हाइड्रोजन क्रैक हो गया, right. तो इन दैट केस इसका प्रोडक्ट रातों रात रिडंडेंट हो सकता है. So there is a terminal value risk that this business has, right. कैपिटल एलोकेशन ट्रैक रिकॉर्ड में कंपनी का कैपिटल एलोकेशन एज सच प्रूडेंट ही था, डिस्पाइट हैविंग उनके पास देयर कैश रिच बिजनेस बेसिकली, but उसके बाद भी they are not going to unrelated acquisition because management wants to acquire something which is powertrain agnostic. So far they have not find any right opportunity, but they are not कि मैं लिस्टेड कंपनी हूँ, मुझे जल्दी जल्दी करना पड़ेगा वरना शेयर होल्डर्स यू नो विल नॉट गिव अस ascribe that valuation to my company वगैरह वगैरह, वो सब प्रेशर है ही नहीं मैनेजमेंट को। दे आर प्रूडेंट कि भाई अभी मेरे को नहीं मिला, मैं नहीं करूंगा, जब मुझे मिलेगा मैं अपना कैश सही जगह पे इन्वेस्ट करूंगा। इज द काइंड ऑफ एटीट्यूड दैट द मैनेजमेंट हैज, व्हिच इज अ साउंड थिंग टू डू। इन सो पास्ट में मैनेजमेंट की सैलरी काफी हाई थी, जहाँ पे सो बेसिकली कंपनी so currently the second generation promoter is running the company. The first generation, the father, when he died, the salary that the father was drawing was now going to the mother, right? Despite mother not adding any, obviously not, she was not actively involved in the businesses, was not adding value to the company, but she was drawing 3 4 crores worth of salary every year. So which is basically a red flag ki bhai, it's basically you are taking money from the company in a clean way, right? There's no two ways about it. Again, in terms of accounting, we did not find anything, again, which is a good thing. In terms of valuation, the way I see it is कि in generally a company trading at a median multiple would have been okay कि ठीक है कंपनी ग्रो करने वाली है, मीडियन मल्टीपल पे ट्रेड करिए, खरीद सकते हैं। बट हियर जब मेरे को टर्मिनल वैल्यू रिस्क है बिजनेस पे, मैं उस टाइम पे उसको सेम मल्टीपल नहीं दूंगा जो उसको कंपनी का 5 साल या 10 साल पहले, तब जब वो टर्मिनल वैल्यू रिस्क नहीं था, राइट? तो व्हेन यू लुक एट फ्रॉम दैट एंगल, मेरे को वो एक्सपेंसिव लगने लगा कि वो अपने हिस्टोरिकल मीडियन पे ही चल रहा है, उसके नीचे नहीं चल रहा है। ठीक है। Coming to industry tailwind, so in case of exhaust business, जो CVs and पैसेंजर व्हीकल्स को जाते हैं उसमें तो कोई टेलविंड एज सच बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं है। बट मेजर टेलविंड जो मैंने एज आई हाईलाइटेड प्रीवियसली, ट्रेम 5 नॉर्म्स जो ट्रैक्टर के लिए आएगा, इन केस वो एप्लीकेबल होता है तो सिग्निफिकेंटली तुम्हारा टारगेट मार्केट बढ़ जाएगा। तो यस, आई थिंक दिस इज ऑल्सो कंसिडरिंग कि अब ट्रेम 5 नॉर्म्स की बात ऐसी है कि इस साल इलेक्शन ईयर है, राइट? इलेक्शन ईयर में गवर्नमेंट ऐसे कोई regulations या कुछ नहीं लाएगी which going to harm their voter bank. तो automatically this regulation has been pushed off to next year, right? And उसमें भी certainty नहीं है कब आएगी नहीं आएगी, because it's more of a politics, because you're dealing with farmers. ट्रैक्टर का कॉस्ट पड़ेगा and farmers don't take it lightly, right? तो it's a major basically uncertainty, कब आएगा नहीं पता, and अभी जो at the meantime जो business है वो तो terminal value risk पे। तो considering all those factors, we decided to give a pass to this company. I think that's all, Prince Bhai, from our side. Any question that you have?
Thanks. Indeed, a very detailed presentation, which hardly leaves any scope of asking questions. You guys have covered it very holistically. I must appreciate you for that. And I mean, most of the questions you have, like I had those questions initially, but you answered during the course of session, explaining the different part of the framework, and it's very commendable framework which you use. So one quick question, which I mean, most of the market participants always look for is like the current market outlook. Obviously, your research is not something which is much more governed by the daily happenings in the market. But again, these times wherein we see correction, so most of the companies which were not following in the good value category must have come back to some sanity. So broadly, like quick question in the sense like the current market outlook, or do you see that kind of opportunities coming or fitting your framework are available, and if so, which pockets? Naming the companies is of course not necessary.
Navid, would you like to take this question?
Yeah, I mean, so Prince Bhai, I would like to answer it this way. So what we do is we also try to, apart from doing company-specific research, we also try to do a lot of macro exercises, right? And in one such macro exercise, we regularly track a ratio which has helped us immensely. That is the small cap to Sensex and mid cap to Sensex ratio, right? So, and we have been tracking this since I think the year 2000 or maybe slightly earlier than that. So we have a good amount of data available with us. So currently both these ratios are trading at 0.6 uh, or something of that sort. And this is even higher than what both these ratios were at the peak of 2017, where the uh, small mid cap bull run ended and then market become narrow framed and etc. So this is the kind of exercise which we continue to do. So based on that exercise, obviously, we were finding some sort of heat in those two pockets. Obviously, that does not mean that every small cap you look at or every mid cap you look at is going to be costly. There are always opportunities available, but largely as a whole, if I look at the index was looking overvalued. That was one. Overvalued, or at least much higher than its history now. History cannot be broken. I'm not saying that, but over a long period of time, history has rhymed. So we would like to err on the side of caution, and we would like to be very, very selective in choosing opportunities from those pockets. That's one. And apart from that, to answer your question, which pockets are looking interesting right now? So these, I think, banks is one pocket which is, generating good amount of interest from our side. Second is the consumer-facing companies, especially in the consumer durable space, is somewhere we are able to find good opportunities. Apart from that, I think we have individual opportunities like Parth recently mentioned, PB FinTech. We have companies like Mayur Uniquoters, which we really like because of the kind of business change which it might witness going forward. Again, there is an anticipation of that business change taking place. Nothing has happened on the ground, but obviously that is why the market is not appreciating the company that much, and the stock price has not really done much in a long period of time. So I think apart from a couple of sectors which I just mentioned, these are a few direct opportunities which comes to my mind. Obviously, Sanjay and Parth might add what I missed. So guys, you guys can add.
Parth, you
Okay.
are on mute.
Sorry. Yeah. So I think one more sector, as I generally mentioned, is we like जहाँ पे थोड़े headwinds हैं आज industry में, and the business or the industry in general is not doing well, and the valuation comfort काफी बार मिलता है. So one more is again chemical, जहाँ पे you would find कि because of channel stocking and everything, headwinds हैं, margin compress हो चुके हैं, China dumping, सब कुछ जितना against जा सकता है सब कुछ जा चुका है. So this is one pocket where definitely you can look at कि कहीं ना कहीं you will find the opportunity.
Great, guys. Really helpful. And I must say, it was a long session, but every minute
Yeah.
of it is worth, as you guys have greatly explained the nuances, the nitty-gritty of your framework, and that very well covers the broad perspective which an informed investor must have in mind. And for our audience, especially, the disclaimer has already been said in the beginning of the session, but let me once again reiterate. So, the case studies or examples discussed during the course of this session are purely meant for educational purposes. The team may or may not have positions and may have shared research with their clientele on that. So you fairly can assume that in some possibility their views can be biased, as the team members has time and again very vocally told you guys that by no means any buy sell recommendation. Again, this is to understand the framework and take the session as a starting point. And greatly, since this is our first video interaction, and really thankful for the team for taking out time for this session. And surely, once you go through this video and share your feedback, and we sincerely look for questions if you have had at your end, so you can surely type those questions in the comments so that we can take with the team and arrange for another session wherein we can address your questions. So before we close, one quick call, Navid and team. You guys want to tell more about your services, and if somebody would like to connect you guys for your services, so anything say on your part.
So, obviously currently we are, catering to B2B customers, but what we have realized is कि this kind of, simple framework should be accessible to other DIY investors as well, where, you know, they make the informed decision rather than, investing on hearsay or tips, right? So what we are planning to do is we are coming out with a platform where retail investors can also access our research and make an informed decision about their investment decisions basically. So yes, I think a brief background. I think Prince, by whatever you said in the start was fairly comprehensive, and I have not much to add there. So yes,
Thanks, Parth,
Obviously,
and
you guys,
definitely will. Yeah,
sorry
yeah,
to
sorry. Sanjay,
Yeah,
go ahead.
so obviously you guys can, connect us on Twitter. You guys can also connect with us using the query section which we have, built on our website. So our website is mentioned on our Twitter handle. So feel free to go to our website, write your queries. If you want to connect, we are happy to connect. And last but not the least, Bhai, thank you so much for considering us eligible to come and present. And thank you for
yes,
patiently listening and giving us the opportunity. Really grateful and thankful.
yes. Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Navid, and definitely it was a great value addition session. And as rightly informed, you guys can connect through their website, and as well as they are active on Twitter, sharing some good quality of information related to the financial markets. And more details will surely be checked in the description of this video. And surely, if you like the video, do spread a word about the team, and you can also like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And we are always open for new ideas and feedback. So look forward to that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you
Bye
so
bye.
Thank
much.
you so
Yeah.
much, Prince Bhai. Thank you.